Chapter 2478. However, to Xiaohua's surprise, the two items seemed to have a faint connection at the edge of his space. Their brilliance intertwined with each other. Not only did the Tai green light and the Tai Wei green light increase, but the innate gold qi and the innate primordial water also increased greatly. These two items were also intertwined with each other, as if they were one. Of course, the gold qi and the primordial water were also scattered throughout the space, but they were far less powerful than before. Haha, as far as I know, there seems to be this item somewhere in the Huan country. However, it's been too long and I can't remember it. The first cultivator who obtained the rejuvenation elixir said with a smile. Alas, I also vaguely know about this. The cultivator who needed the innate primordial wood sighed. It's just that I've been in the Sky Patrol City for a long time and haven't seen it in the auction, so I came here to try my luck. Obviously, this cultivator's luck was not as good as Xiaohua's. After waiting for a while, no one spoke, so he could only sit down resentfully. When it was the turn of the last cultivator in the front row, the cultivator clapped his hands and took out a jade slip. He handed it to Bai Xing and said, "Fellow cultivator Bai, I need this item. I wonder if your Sky Patrol tea house has it?" "Well, since you've come prepared, I'll take a look first." Bai Xing took the jade slip and immersed his divine thought into it. Immediately, his face was filled with astonishment. However, this astonishment was immediately replaced by confusion. He raised his head and said embarrassedly, "Fellow cultivator, please wait a moment. The spiritual tea in your jade slip. I'm not familiar with it. I'll ask my junior brother to come and take a look." "Ha ha ha. Fellow cultivator Bai, this is not spiritual tea," the cultivator said with a laugh. "Oh, if this is not spiritual tea, then what is it?" Bai Xing was a little confused. "I've been running the Sky Patrol Tea House for decades, and the Sky Patrol Tea House has been operating for thousands of years. Of course, I can recognize the spiritual tea. Hehe, alright. If the Sky Survey Tea House has this spirit tea, I will buy it with spirit stones." The cultivator nodded. Then, a cultivator who was older than Bai Xing flew up and cupped his hands at the crowd. He took the jade slip and looked at it for a moment. Then he shook his head slightly and said, "This spiritual tea looks very familiar. However, when I look at it carefully, it is different from all the spiritual teas in my sect. I have never seen it before. My Sky Survey Tea House doesn't have this tea either." At this point, the old man asked sincerely, "What is the name of this spirit tea? I am very curious." "Junior Marshal Brother," this fellow Taoist said, "this isn't spirit tea." Bai Xing explained. "Oh, it's not spirit tea." Disappointment appeared on the old man's face. He then cupped his hands and said, "Then I was blind. Fellow Taoist, there's no need to say the name of this item." After he finished speaking, the old man bowed and left. It seemed that if it wasn't the spirit tea, then it had nothing to do with him at all. "Can I show it to you, fellow Taoists?" Bai Xing asked tentatively. "Of course," the cultivator nodded and said, "I want you to see if you have any information about this item or if you have this item." Damn. This guy is looking for something similar to the spirit tea. That's why he came to the Sky Survey Tea House. Who would have thought that they don't even know about it? Xiaohua sat at the back, watching everyone check one by one, somewhat bored. "I want to find some dry distance pills, but obviously these cultivators certainly don't have this thing. And even if they do, it won't be too much, and this young master has already been identified as a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. And today I have broken through the ban of the Sky Patrol City. If I ask for too many dry distance pills, it will definitely attract the attention of others, and if they follow the map, they might be able to find this young master. It seems. As he thought about it, the jade slip was passed to Xiaohua. Seeing that everyone was silent, the cultivator had already given up on the idea. He was waiting for Xiaohua to finish reading it and take it back. Unexpectedly, Xiaohua took the jade slip and immersed his divine sense in it. After reading a bit, he was stunned on the spot. He was not only familiar with this item, but he was also very familiar with it. In his space, there was a large patch of spirit grass planted with this item. It was the fragrant spirit tea that Ziyi gave him. Isn't this the fragrant spirit tea? It's obviously the same. Why did this cultivator say that it's not the spirit tea? Xiaohua was very puzzled and looked at it again and again. Seeing that Xiaohua was holding the jade slip without moving, the cultivator was pleasantly surprised and whispered, "Fellow Taoist, do you have this item?" "Oh, I won't hide it from you. I do have a few pieces." Xiaohua thought for a moment and smiled. "Ah, fellow Taoist really has it? How many pieces do you have?" The cultivator almost cried out in surprise. "He, about 3 or 4 pieces," Xiaohua said embarrassedly. "This old man thought that this was the spirit tea. I have already drunk it twice. I thought that the last 3 or 4 pieces were too little, so I didn't drink it." You really used it to drink tea?" The cultivator almost cried out in surprise. Xiaohua said curiously, "Isn't this the spirit tea? If this old man doesn't drink tea, what else can I do?" You are really wasting God's gift." The cultivator almost jumped up and said, Quickly give me those 4 pieces. No matter how many spirit stones you want, this old man will agree to it." Seeing the cultivator rushing over and stretching out his hand in front of him, Xiaohua smiled. If he didn't knock now, when would he? He fellow Taoist. Xiaohua transmitted his voice. "What is this item? You can't tell others, but you can't tell me?" This the cultivator calmed down and said hesitantly, "This old man can tell you the origin of this item. However, you have to make a heart oath to give it to me." "No problem." Xiaohua made a heart oath and said that he would give the 4 pieces of fragrant spirit tea to the cultivator. Only then did the cultivator feel relieved and said, "Actually, this item shouldn't be of any use to you. Leaving it in your hands can only be used as spirit tea." "Haha, fellow Taoist, just say it quickly," Xiaohua said with a smile. "This old man has already promised to give it to you, and I promise that I will never ask for too much. Are you still not satisfied?" Oh, that's right. Only now did the cultivator realize that if Xiaohua had listened to him and asked for a lot of spirit stones, he might not be able to afford it. Wouldn't he have fallen into Xiaohua's trap? Alas, this old man is too surprised. The cultivator smiled apologetically. "Thank you for your kindness, fellow Taoist. This item is only effective for one of my soul-related secret arts. This old man has been looking for this item for dozens of years. Recently, I learned from some of my seniors that this item was found in the millions of Meng Mountains. Moreover, even in the hands of soul cultivators, this item is absolutely precious." "Ah? Soul cultivator?" Xiaohua was shocked, and Ziye's elegant image appeared in his mind. No matter how he looked at him, he didn't look like a barbaric soul cultivator. Presumably, fellow Taoist also got this item from a sword cultivator. The cultivator said with a smile. "Only swordsmen and soul cultivators can get this rare item. Fellow Taoist, you don't need to know how this old man got this item. You just need to tell me its origin," Xiaohua said absent-mindedly. Seeing that the two of them were talking through telepathy, the other cultivators naturally knew that this item was related to the cultivator's secret. They could only sit quietly and wait for the two to complete the transaction. When the cultivator finished his brief explanation, Xiaohua understood. This item was called the Daybreak Moon, and it was an auxiliary item used by soul cultivators during their cultivation. It was similar to the spirit stones and medicinal pills used by cultivators, but this Daybreak Moon was even rarer. Oh, so that's how it is. Xiaohua understood a little, and his heart was also enlightened. Ziyi might not be a soul cultivator. He might be like the others, mistaking this Daybreak Moon for spirit tea. Otherwise, how could he taste this extremely rare treasure in the eyes of soul cultivators in a tea house? Then Xiaohua asked the cultivator about the usage of the Daybreak Moon. The cultivator hesitated, only saying that it was related to his secret arts, and didn't want to talk about it. Okay. Xiaohua nodded. Since fellow Taoist doesn't want to talk about it, then this old man won't force you. This old man will take these 4 spirit tea, and won't exchange it for anything else. I just want to exchange it for the dry distance pills Dan recipe. I don't know if fellow Taoist has it. What? What do you want the dry distance pills Dan recipe for? The cultivator was surprised. You said before that you wouldn't make things difficult for this old man here. Xiaohua shrugged and said with a smile, "This old man isn't really making things difficult for you. This is indeed this old man's original intention. Even if you don't tell me the origin of this thing, this old man will still ask you for it." How could this old man have the dry distance pills Dan recipe? The cultivator smiled bitterly. This old man isn't good at alchemy at all. Then we can only see if other fellow Taoists have it. Xiaohua spread his hands and said, "Okay." The cultivator was also helpless. When he was about to open his mouth, he shook his head. "This fellow Taoist. These 4 twilight moons of yours are priceless treasures to this old man, but to others, they are simply worthless. As for the dry distance pills Dan recipe, I'm afraid it won't be that easy to obtain. This old man really doesn't have any certainty. I won't let you and I exchange spirit stones. How about fellow Taoist find the Dan recipe himself?" Hee, fellow Taoist. This old man's words are naturally reasonable. You can go and ask. No matter how many spirit stones, this old man will agree. Xiaohua only thought for a moment before transmitting his voice. Okay, this old man will give it a try. After all, this old man isn't an alchemist, so I don't know what the result will be. The cultivator heard that Xiaohua didn't want to take the initiative himself, and only wanted him to help him bid. He was quite puzzled, but he could only pinch his nose and follow Xiaohua's instructions. The result could be considered as Xiaohua's expectations. There really were alchemists among these dozens of people. After the cultivator negotiated for a long time, paid a large sum of spirit stones, and also the secret of the twilight moons, the cultivator obtained a jade slip. This fellow Taoist, the cultivator, gave the jade slip to Xiaohua, and then took the 4 verdant twilight moons from Xiaohua, and said with extreme helplessness, "You're really making things difficult for I. In fact, fellow Taoists can use spirit stones to exchange for the Dan recipe. Why must you let I bid?" Chapter 2479. Hee, Xiaohua said via voice transmission. That fellow Taoist communicated with you via voice transmission, although this poor Taoist couldn't hear it. According to this poor Taoist's thinking, they must have an additional condition, which is that they want to know the name and usage of this day-night moon. Ah. That's right. That cultivator was stunned, but he immediately realized. Fellow Taoist means, because he wants to know the name and use of this twilight moon, he made a deal with I. Haha, people are naturally curious. If they come across something they don't know, or even something that might be beneficial to their cultivation, they will inevitably do everything they can to know or obtain it. Fellow Taoist took out this mysterious thing. Although it's useless to him, he still wants to know. This in itself is a temptation. If I bid, he may not be willing, but if fellow Taoist bids, then he will definitely succeed. AI fellow Taoist is right. That cultivator was clearly convinced by Xiaohua's words. He cupped his hands and said, "This old man understands." Hee. Xiaohua watched that cultivator turn around and leave. He impatiently immersed his divine sense into the jade slip, carefully memorizing the pill formula he obtained with great difficulty, then threw it into the space. The spiritual herbs used to refine the dry separation pill couldn't be said to be rare and old, but in Xiaohua's eyes, these weren't difficult at all, and they were simply at his fingertips. With this pill formula, he could use it as a reference. He could even refine the pill himself. He didn't need to bid at the auction, and he didn't need to attract the attention of others. It must be known that bidding for more than 10 dry separation pills at once was definitely a big deal for a large sect, not to mention that Xiaohua might need several hundred pills. Xiaohua's purpose in coming to this bargaining session has been achieved, so he was very satisfied. He didn't care about the transactions of the other cultivators. Even if he had a lot of old spirit grasses in his space, he was too lazy to deal with them. As for the things that the other cultivators took out, they weren't particularly precious and had nothing to do with Xiaohua's cultivation. So be it. These sanctimonious things, this young master won't play with you anymore. Although Xiaohua wasn't arrogant enough to directly leave like that cultivator, he still closed his eyes and stopped paying attention to them. Another hour passed, and the sound of bargaining gradually died down. A cultivator in front of Xiaohua said in a low voice, "This old man originally didn't have anything to bid on, but if I don't take out something, I'll be letting down fellow Taoist Bai's hospitality. How about this? This old man has a sword slip that I obtained from a sword cultivator. The contents of the sword slip seem to be a map. As for where the map is, this old man doesn't know. But it definitely doesn't belong to the cultivation 3 kingdoms. I wonder which fellow Taoist is interested? With that, the cultivator greedily took out a large number of spirit stones. Map. Xiaohua was slightly stunned. Could it be the ruins of the Buddhist sect? At this moment, Baixing chuckled and said, "Fellow Taoist, this map of yours. I'm afraid the number of spirit stones given is a little too high, right? How could anyone possibly make a bid?" Hee. The cultivator laughed and said, "This thing is useless in this old man's hands. Just like that fellow Taoist from before. He actually drank something that others regard as a treasure like spirit tea. In the eyes of others, this map is probably a rare treasure. If this old man doesn't take advantage of this moment to get more spirit stones, when will I? Even if no one bids, this old man won't lose anything, right?" That's reasonable. Everyone had seen Xiaohua and that cultivator trade for the twilight moon, so they also knew that what this cultivator said was reasonable. "Fellow Taoist, you have to let us take a look, or else who knows where this map is?" A cultivator said with a smile. "And wait a moment, this old man will add some restrictions." After that cultivator finished speaking, he cast a few spells and handed it over to Baixing. Baixing looked at it and smiled without saying anything. Then, she handed it over to the cultivators in the front row in front of the high platform. "Huh. This seems to be a map of the vicinity of 1,000,000 Meng mountains." A cultivator was stunned at first, but then he smiled and said, "That. Fellow Taoist, don't blame me for speaking without thinking." As that cultivator spoke, he clapped his hands and took out a sword slip. He smiled and handed it over to that cultivator and said, "Fellow Taoist, take a look. Is it similar to your map?" "Oh, is it? Ha ha ha. This old man is ignorant and inexperienced." That cultivator's tone was awkward at first, but then he laughed and said, "If that's the case, then there's no need to negotiate. This old man will embarrass himself." Ha ha ha, everyone laughed. While putting away the sword slip, they looked at Xiaohua sitting at the back. They only had to wait for Xiaohua to complete the trade, and then they could end this negotiation. "Oh, this old man doesn't have anything I want. To be honest, this is the first time this old man has come to this kind of negotiation, so I'm not prepared." Xiaohua stood up and cupped his hands and said, "How about this? Fellow Taoists, you can trade the maps with this old man. This old man will take 20 spirit stones, 10 for each map." "Oh, is that so? Fellow Taoist is actually interested in this map? If that's the case, this old man also has one here." Baixing laughed when he saw this. He clapped his hands and took out a green sword slip from his storage bag. This old man spent 2 spirit stones to exchange for this from an Qi refinement disciple. If fellow Taoist likes it, this item is fellow Taoist's. Baixing didn't wait for the others to speak. He waved his hand and the sword slip flew over. He said with a smile, "This old man earned 8 spirit stones." "Oh. Xiaohua was very puzzled. He thought that no matter what, he would have to bargain for a few rounds, but he didn't expect that Baixing would actually take out a map from her storage pouch, and even give it to him so easily. Since Baixing had Baixing's interference and the price had already been finalized, the other 2 cultivators also knew that this item wasn't valuable. They might as well exchange it for a few spirit stones. Especially the cultivator in front of Xiaohua. He clearly knew that Xiaohua had some ulterior motives, but the 2 of them had already given the map to Xiaohua, so his portion was almost useless. He also somewhat reluctantly gave the sword slip to Xiaohua. Haha. Xiaohua was very happy. He cupped his hands and said, "Many thanks, fellow Taoists. Many thanks, fellow Taoist Bai." You're welcome. If fellow Taoist doesn't have any requests, today's bargaining session will end," Baixing said with a smile. "Yes, I don't have any requests." Xiaohua nodded with a smile. As he spoke, he waved his hand and put the 3 jade slips into his space without even looking at them. "Good." Baixing waved his hand and put all the storage bags on the high platform into his sleeve. He said with a smile, "I announce the end of this bargaining session. Fellow Taoists, the sky is already bright. Fellow Taoists can leave now. If fellow Taoists want to drink tea in this humble tea house, please move upstairs. This humble tea house will serve tea for free. Haha, many thanks fellow Taoists. Bye. All the cultivators stood up, cupped their hands, and prepared to leave. But just as Xiaohua stood up, he heard Bai Xing's voice transmission. Fellow Taoist, please wait a moment. Me? Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled and looked at Bai Xing in confusion. Yes, fellow Taoist. Bai Xing said with a smile on his face. All right. Xiaohua watched the cultivators leave one by one. Although he muttered in his heart, he wasn't nervous. Fellow Taoist, please sit. Bai Xing followed the crowd to Xiaohua's side and said very politely. Well said. Xiaohua sat down steadily and asked calmly. But I wonder why fellow Taoist Bai asked I to stay. Haha, it's nothing. Bai Xing looked up and saw that everyone had left through the restriction. He smiled and said, I just want to make a deal with fellow Taoist. A deal? Xiaohua was slightly stunned and said curiously, I've already found what I need. What else does fellow Taoist Bai want to make a deal with I? Naturally it's this. Bai Xing took out a storage bag and handed it to Xiaohua with a smile. What is this? Xiaohua didn't take it and asked instead. Bai Xing didn't withdraw his hand and said politely, Fellow Taoist, why don't you take a look for yourself? Xiaohua's heart thumped. He seemed to have thought of something and reached out to take the storage bag. Sure enough, the storage bag was actually the corpses of the 40 or so Imperial Thunder Sect disciples. They were thrown inside carelessly, and men and women were mixed together, just like goods. Fellow Taoist Bai, what is the meaning of this? Xiaohua suppressed his anger and said coldly, Didn't I say before? I didn't come to bid for this thing, and I disdain to use this thing to fake battle merits. Haha, fellow Taoist, don't be agitated. Bai Xing said with a smile. Fellow Taoist, this is the first time you've come to this Bai's negotiation, so you naturally don't know the rules, and this Bai definitely doesn't care. However, since fellow Taoist has already participated in this negotiation, the first rule must be obeyed. The first rule is that we have to negotiate the price of this corpse. Do we have to fake battle merits? Xiaohua said coldly. Fellow Taoist, you're wrong. The smile on Bai Xing's face didn't change, and he was still very polite. This is the first time fellow Taoist has come here, so we have to negotiate the price. As for whether fellow Taoist uses battle merits, that's fellow Taoist's business. This Bai and the others won't care. What if I don't pay spirit stones? Xiaohua stood up and asked lightly. When Bai Xing heard this, he didn't seem to be surprised or nervous, and he said with a smile, Fellow Taoist, it's fine if you don't pay spirit stones. This Bai won't force you, nor will I prevent you from leaving this restriction, nor will I let anyone kill you in the Sky Patrol City. Of course, I won't find someone to kill you on the battlefield. Are you threatening I? Xiaohua's coldness became stronger. No, this Bai doesn't mean that at all. Bai Xing said with a smile. This Bai just wants to say that this has nothing to do with spirit stones. Since I can do such a business here, I naturally have an inextricable relationship with the Sky Patrol City. Let me tell you, fellow Taoist, this Bai has someone above. Xiaohua sneered. What I want to say is, even if I don't care, the group of cultivators waiting outside the tea house, they may not be at ease. When Bai Xing said this, it was as if she had put the finishing touches on a dragon. She stopped and looked at Xiaohua meaningfully, as if she was waiting for Xiaohua to make a decision. Chapter 2480. Oh, that's right. Xiaohua groaned. Damn it, this group of sanctimonious bastards is doing such a vicious transaction here. If I don't participate, I'll be an untainted piece of trash. How can they be at ease? Even if two cultivators from some sect fight for the same storage bag, it's still safer than me. Do you understand, fellow Taoist? Bai Xing took the opportunity to say. What about the cultivator who came with I? Xiaohua said coldly. He didn't negotiate anything, right? Hee, fellow Taoist, don't compare yourself with him. Bai Xing said with a smile. This Bai's tiger tally is recorded. It can be traced to who it is given to and who it is given to. This Bai doesn't know who he is, but this Bai knows the tiger tally that he uses. Besides, even if I can't find any trace of you from the Tiger Tally, you've braved the band to come to my Sky Patrol tea house. I've asked someone to patrol the city guards of Sky Patrol City. I'll definitely be able to find you, right? Do you want to force this old man to kill you? Xiaohua said coldly. Bai Xing was not afraid at all. He cupped his hands and said, Fellow Taoist, this Bai is doing business. I emphasize that harmony brings wealth. How can I argue with you? These are the rules. I won't hide it from you. If you don't take this storage bag, the cultivators in this tea house will definitely make things difficult for this Bai. Can you pity this Bai? Bai Xing said that he was pitiful, but there was no pitiful look on his face. He was very sure that Xiaohua would definitely pay spirit stones to buy this storage bag. He had done this many times before. This was because he knew that Xiaohua couldn't kill him, and Xiaohua couldn't really face the many cultivators in the tea house. So what if I kill you all? Xiaohua's eyes narrowed as killing intent rose within him. He was originally suppressing his anger, but now he was actually being forced to buy and sell. If we kill these filthy people, we can also let others know how filthy we are. Let them know. Thinking, Xiaohua swung his Taoist robe, and was about to use the heaven and earth sleeve to restrain Bai Xing. Hee, looks like you've thought it through. When Bai Xing saw Xiaohua's sleeve move, he thought that Xiaohua was going to take out spirit stones. He smiled apologetically and said, Actually, fellow Taoist didn't suffer any losses today. Just now, if I hadn't taken out a sword slip that wasn't a map and gave it to fellow Taoist, just the maps of those two cultivators, fellow Taoist would have had to spend countless spirit stones. Oh, Xiaohua was dumbfounded. He quietly withdrew his magic power, and then took out Bai Xing's sword scroll. He immersed his divine sense into it, and sure enough, it wasn't a map at all, but a damaged sword technique. Io, this sword art. Xiaohua glanced at the sword art and unconsciously became slightly stunned. This seems to be a sword scroll that transforms into a sword. What do you think, fellow Taoist? Am I a good friend? Bai Xing said with a smile. This sword technique is no ordinary sword technique. If I'm not wrong, it should be used by swordsmen. Of course, this sword technique is very damaged and the cultivators of my Dao sect are unable to use it. However, it allowed me to throw out a brick to attract jade today. Even if you spend some spirit stones to negotiate the price of these corpses, and also get 2 maps, it's definitely killing 3 birds with 1 stone. AI, alright. Seeing Bai Xing's business to such an extent, Xiaohua was really speechless. Although he didn't want to add fuel to the fire, but he was even more unwilling to expose his whereabouts at this time, and even more unwilling to attract the attention of the Snow Region's Taoist master. He could only pinch his nose and enter the trap. Great. Bai Xing bowed and said, Thank you for your support, fellow Taoist. As he spoke, he quoted a number of spirit stones. Fortunately, Xiaohua calculated a little, and this price was also fair. Even lower than the price of others. Forget it. Why don't you give the other corpses to me too? Xiaohua sighed. Fellow Taoist Bai is so benevolent, I can't not support you. Don't, Bai Xing hurriedly waved his hand and said. The number of corpses was specially prepared according to fellow Taoist's cultivation. If there are more, fellow Taoists won't be able to account for it. Moreover, doesn't fellow Taoist already have a thunderbolt? When the time comes, find an opportunity to hand it over to the conference hall. The merit will be even greater than this. Sweat, why didn't I think of this? Xiaohua naturally thought of the situation when he was bidding for the corpses earlier. This Bai Xing's business is really done to the point of perfection. After Xiaohua paid the spirit stones and put the storage bag into his sleeve, Bai Xing happily accompanied Xiaohua out of the restriction. Sure enough, on the first floor of the tea house, almost all the bidding cultivators were sitting there wearing camouflage clothes, each of them with a cup of spirit tea in front of them. Waiter, serve this fellow Taoist some spirit tea, Bai Xing shouted as soon as he appeared in the tea house. Yes, this little one will come right away. The waiter on the other side responded, and the atmosphere in the tea house clearly relaxed. Although everyone didn't talk, they all picked up their teacups and very contentedly tasted the spirit tea. Looking at the cup of spirit tea offered by the qi refining disciple, Xiaohua smiled bitterly. This spirit tea was very valuable. Not only was it a sum of spirit stones, but it was also the corpses of dozens of Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. It was also his own life, or the dozens of lives in the tea house. After a while, light gradually appeared outside the window, and the sound of people faintly came from the street of the tea house. The tea refining disciple very carefully opened the door of the tea house, then immediately stood behind the door respectfully. A cultivator who had been near the door for a long time immediately stood up and swaggered out. And after this cultivator left for a while, another cultivator stood up and followed him out. Xiaohua observed for a moment, and found that they probably couldn't go out together. Basically, they had to wait for the cultivator in front of them to disappear on the street, before the cultivator behind them could stand up. Xiaohua wasn't in a hurry. After waiting for everyone to leave, he stood up and slowly walked to the door. At this time, the sun had just risen, and the warm sunlight shone on Xiaohua's face. Xiaohua slightly narrowed his eyes and looked at the bright sun in the sky, muttering to himself, "There's light, it's really good." Then, he also stepped forward and went to the street without looking back. Behind Xiaohua, the door of the Heavenly Inspect tea house wasn't closed, and no one came in or out. No one knew that last night, there were actually a lot of military merits that appeared out of thin air in this place. Xiaohua naturally didn't go to the conference hall to receive his military merits. Instead, he returned to the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment. He didn't go to the Imperial Thunder Sect's residence, but instead, he casually found an alchemy cave, activated the restriction, and sat down. Xiaohua clapped his hands and took out a piece of fragrant spirit tea from the space. With Ziye's jade slip and the fragrant spirit tea seedling, it was really easy for Xiaohua to grow the fragrant spirit tea in the space. However, Xiaohua didn't have the hobby of drinking tea. He was extremely used to growing, picking, and collecting the fragrant spirit tea. How could he have thought that this thing was actually used by soul cultivators? Smelling the fragrant spirit tea's fragrance, Xiaohua couldn't help but salivate. He smacked his lips a few times and felt a little regretful. He regretted that he didn't get a tea set in the tea house. His space was a dazzling collection of treasures, jade slips, and even spiritual herbs, but there was no tea set. Even if he wanted to drink a mouthful of the fragrant spirit tea, he couldn't. If I can't drink it, can't this young master eat it? Xiaohua thought and put the piece of fragrant spirit tea into his mouth. Immediately, a burst of fragrance filled his mouth, and a sweet and refreshing feeling spread down his throat into his body. Feeling the refreshing feeling, Xiaohua smiled and said, "I'm afraid Ziyi was tempted by this fragrance. If it wasn't for this extreme fragrance, how could he, a child of an aristocratic family, personally brew tea? But how do I use this so-called twilight moon?" Xiaohua waved his hand and another piece of fragrant spirit tea appeared in his hand. Then, Xiaohua closed his eyes and several soul strands came out from his eyes. It's really interesting. When Xiaohua's soul strands came into contact with the dark green fragrant spirit tea, he felt a kind of comfort. This comfort was extremely refreshing, similar to the refreshing feeling on the tip of the tongue. However, one penetrated the heart and lungs, filling the body, while the other directly rushed into the depths of the soul. When the refreshing feeling entered the dark cloud formed by the soul strands, the entire dark cloud slightly swayed. Then, a wave of fluctuation came out from the dark cloud and entered the soul strands. When the fluctuation came from the soul strands into the fragrant spirit tea, the soul strands danced like tentacles. As the soul strands danced, the fragrant spirit tea also vibrated strangely and floated in the air. In the blink of an eye, a thumb-sized dark green crescent moon flashed out from the fragrant spirit tea. It was entangled by the soul strands, and a dry, yellow leaf slowly fell from the soul strands and floated into the air. This fluctuation is soul power. Suddenly, a lightning-like realization appeared in Xiaohua's mind. Previously, I thought soul power was the same as a person's strength. Being able to lift things with one's arms is strength. Although the soul strands were able to entangle the soul-suppressing bell, that kind of strength was not soul power. This fluctuation is true soul power. Although the soul strands were able to entangle the fragrant spirit tea, if it was not soul power, then it was the fragrant spirit tea. Only this fluctuation can take out the dawnlight moon from the fragrant spirit tea. This fluctuation is true soul power. Xiaohua's mind moved like lightning. And the soul cultivation method is to temper the fluctuations. Isn't it just tempering soul power? Isn't it the same principle as the Tao sex magic power? Ha ha ha, Xiaohua almost laughed out loud. Just as Xiaohua was thinking, the dawnlight moon followed the fluctuation of the soul strands into the Dharma eye, entering the mysterious place. Once the dawnlight moon entered the mysterious place, it immediately emitted a misty emerald green brilliance. This brilliance was extremely similar to the green seal text's green color, illuminating the mysterious dark cloud. When the dawnlight moon entered the aura ring, the entire aura ring was filled with emerald green brilliance, like the hazy moonlight between dawn and dusk. Chapter 2481. Moreover, this emerald green brilliance contained a thick and clear fragrance. As the brilliance densely filled the entire heaven ring, it combined with the fragrance of the black silk wood from before, becoming increasingly rich. Looking at Xiaohua's primordial spirit and the little white dragon's soul that accompanied it, it danced even more, just like a cultivator who had taken an extremely powerful spirit pill. Great, seeing his primordial spirit becoming increasingly stronger, and following the little white dragon's soul, his primordial spirit swam even faster, rushing to the peak of the heaven ring several times faster than before. If nothing unexpected happened, he feared that within a few years he would be able to complete the first stage of the soul cultivation technique, and enter the second stage of the clear spirit heaven. This is the little white dragon's soul that is on the verge of dissipating, and it is currently condensing. Its soul is naturally extremely powerful, and this condensing process naturally drives the cultivation of my soul. Xiaohua naturally understood the reason behind it. The so-called to redeem others is to redeem oneself, Ba. Motherfucker, why is it related to Buddhism again? Xiaohua suddenly woke up again. The 3,000 great Taos. In the end, I'm afraid it really is all the great Taos. Maybe soul cultivation and Buddhism are also one of the great Taos. Seeing that his most unremarkable soul cultivation technique had obtained a trace of opportunity, Xiaohua was very happy, and withdrew his mind from the mysterious dark clouds. He took out the sword slip that Bai Xing had half sold and half given. This sword slip was very damaged, and there was no complete sentence that could be linked together. Xiaohua could only reluctantly read this sword slip once, and roughly understood the meaning. This sword slip naturally has no value. Nascent soul cultivators wouldn't care, and ordinary gold core cultivators definitely wouldn't want it. However, Bai Xing's business acumen is really deep in his bones. This kind of smooth and slick person can be considered to have saved his life today. Xiaohua sneered as he sent the sword slip into the space, and then secretly pondered, just as I expected. This sword transformation technique involves the secret method of using the primordial spirit to control the sword. And only by reaching the primordial spirit to control the sword can one truly step into the sword transformation technique. However, this sword transformation technique is a bit strange. It actually has the method of forming the sword spirit. In other words, fusing the sword spirit and sword intent into one to form the sword heart. This sword heart was the key to controlling the flying sword with the primordial spirit? Damn it, this young master is confused. Wasn't this sword intent the manifestation of a sword spirit? Wasn't it similar to the spiritual will of a cultivator? How could they merge into one? Wasn't there only one of them? Furthermore, looking at the synthesis of the sword heart, it seemed to be somewhat similar to condensing a core. When did sword cultivators become similar to cultivator spells? Xiaohua was a little dizzy because of this specious transforming into sword technique. He wanted to refine a few fire runes or see if he could refine Lingli pill. At this time he simply put these aside. He stretched out his hand and took out all the sword slips he collected. He checked them carefully one by one from the pregnant sword. For several days in a row, Xiaohua's brows were tightly knitted. Until one day, Xiaohua suddenly slapped his forehead, and the corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a smile. He put all the sword slips into the space, and said with self-mockery, "So this sword intent is only a swordsman's understanding of flying swords. It's the soul of the flying sword in the swordsman's heart. When the swordsman tempered the sword intent, he also gradually condensed his soul into the sword intent. The sword spirit was a trace of the primordial spirit of the swordsman. With the cultivation and breeding, it had spirituality, so the flying sword also had a spirit. However, this sword spirit was only a means for the swordsman to control. The cultivation of the swordsman was also divided by the tempering of the sword intent, not by the strength of the sword spirit. If the swordsman wanted to enter the transforming sword realm, he had to plant the sword intent in the sword spirit, and let his soul and the sword spirit combine. Only then could he and the flying sword become one. This should be similar to the Taoist sex-pregnant baby, not condensing a core. It was precisely because of this that the swordsman could only have one soul and one sword heart. Therefore, the swordsman could only have one flying sword in his life, and he couldn't sacrificial refine the second one. This was completely different from the Taoist sex-pregnant baby. A cultivator might have one or two, or even more life-bound magic treasures, as long as the cultivator's mind is strong enough. But thinking of this, Xiaohua was somewhat confused. That's not right. Senior Li Xiaobai had 9 flying swords. His sword intent was 9 stars soaring sun. This sword pill must also have his sword heart. But why didn't Taoist Master Bright Sword and Senior Li Xiaobai's jade slips mention this? Since the sword pill doesn't have a sword heart, then what about Senior Li Xiaobai? Did he really die with the Tao? Also, that little deer is clearly Taoist Master Bright sword intent, right? Why is it so docile? Where is the sharpness of a flying sword? If it's like this, will I still need to refine this 9-star soaring sun sword pill? It seems like the second sword pill is already complete. If I introduce the primordial spirit brand, I can successfully nurture the sword. Originally, Xiaohua didn't know the mysteries of the Tao of the sword and didn't know fear at all. He thought that this sword pill was like a cultivator's magic tool, and after refining it, it would be his. But now that he saw more and knew more, his heart became increasingly uncertain. Powerful primordial spirit. Thinking of this, Xiaohua's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. Damn it, if it dares to be more powerful than my primordial spirit, I still have a little white dragon in my soul. Even Taoist Master Bright Sword and Li Xiaobai are only nascent soul cultivators. If they have any more tricks up their sleeves and do something to the sword pill, I will wait for the moment of danger to summon the little white dragon. Humph. That is an existence that can directly face 3 nascent soul cultivators. I don't believe that I can't deal with these 2 people. Also, what is my boy? That is Di Ting, an existence that even the Empress of the 10,000 demon realm trembles in fear. Who dares to make a move against me? After being ruthless, Xiaohua laughed again. Besides, Li Xiaobai and Taoist Master Bright Sword didn't make arrangements when they were on the brink of despair. If they want to live, there are many ways. There is no need to do these dirty things. I, on the other hand, have seen too much in the dark. There is really no need to measure the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Looking at Taoist Master Bright sword intent, I can know that this is a magnanimous gentleman. There is no need to worry. Thinking about this, Xiaohua opened his mouth and the second sword pill flew out with Buddha fire. It was also green and red. It landed in the air and spun around like a spiritual thing. Come out! Xiaohua opened his mouth again, and the Zhu Meng flew out. It drew a beautiful sword arc in the air and landed beside the sword pill. When the Zhu Meng came out, the sword pill became even more lively, as if it had seen someone close to it. It circled around the Zhu Meng rapidly, as if it was acting coquettishly and showing off. It was more like a feeling of urgency. Ha ha ha, it is indeed a flying sword. It is really different from ordinary magic tools. Xiaohua laughed. Just as he was about to use the primordial spirit imprint, suddenly, another thought appeared in Xiaohua's mind like a thunderbolt. Damn it, this flying sword has a sword spirit. Oh no, it has a sword heart in the future. Isn't it like a magic tool having a weapon spirit? Isn't this a spirit tool? However, this weapon spirit is the same as a cultivator's nascent soul. The sword heart. Xiaohua was somewhat dumbstruck, as if he had discovered something inconceivable. No, it is definitely not that simple. Xiaohua shook his head again. If it is like this, how could the Dao sect cultivators not know? How could a nascent soul senior be unable to forge a spirit tool? There must be something strange about this. Or perhaps, nascent soul cultivators are not willing to use their bodies to feed a weapon and become a weapon spirit. Forget it, don't think about it, don't think about it. If I think about it too much, I will definitely go crazy. Thinking of this, Xiaohua hurriedly withdrew his train of thought. The great Tao of cultivation was truly vast and boundless. Walking around carelessly without guidance was truly quite dangerous. Xiaohua sat quietly for a while, then used a sword cultivator's primordial spirit branding technique, and imprinted the primordial spirit from the dream executioner onto the second sword pill. Sensing that the primordial spirit was once again dormant, Xiaohua smiled. He knew that after this dormant state, a flying sword would appear in this world, and another sword light would be able to kill evil. If this second sword pill corresponded to the 9 stars transit, it would be the morning star. However, in this young master's hands, it will not be so refined. The first sword light is the dream executioner, then this young master's second sword light will be the mountain splitter. Mountain splitter unrivaled. This young master will split open all the mountains of injustice in this world. Wang. A sword cry seemed to come from the dream executioner. The mountain splitter also sensed it. Seeing this, Xiaohua became even more delighted. Haha, great, this young master's matters are going smoothly. It seems that I need to refine some. Unfortunately, just as he thought of this, the restriction of the pill refining cave shook, as if a transmission talisman had arrived. Which blind fool! Xiaohua was somewhat angry, but immediately after, he shrugged his shoulders. What do you think? Who would look for me at this time? It can only be Senior Marshal Brotherly. Forget it, Senior Marshal Brotherly Zongbao has summoned me, so I must go out to battle. What fire talisman? Let's talk about it later. Unfortunately, when Xiaohua opened the restriction of the alchemy room, he saw a disciple on duty from the Imperial Thunder sect carefully standing at the door. When he saw Xiaohua, he immediately smiled respectfully and said, Junior greets Marshal Uncle. May I know if you are Marshal Uncle Xiaohua? That's me. Xiaohua was somewhat baffled, but his heart trembled slightly, and he cautiously asked, What matter does Marshal Nephew have? Junior has disturbed Marshal Uncle Zhao's quiet cultivation. That disciple still spoke softly, as if he was a female cultivator. Today Junior is on duty. Just now, at the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment, I saw a Foundation Establishment senior come to visit Marshal Uncle Xiao. Marshal Uncle Dui, who was on duty at the door, told Junior to inform Marshal Uncle Xiao. However, Junior has searched everywhere for Marshal Uncle Xiao. Chapter 2482. Seeing that this disciple was so long-winded, Xiaohua laughed in his heart. Since it wasn't anything special, he patiently listened to the disciple. When this junior was hesitating whether to inform that Foundation Establishment senior, I suddenly thought of whether Marshal Uncle Xiao would be meditating in this cave. So at this moment, the disciple saw Xiaohua's faint smile and immediately became reserved again. He bowed and said, This junior has said too much. Marshal Uncle, please follow this junior to the entrance of the encampment. That Foundation Establishment senior must be waiting anxiously. Okay. Xiaohua replied concisely. The entrance of the encampment wasn't far from the cave, and this distance was enough for Xiaohua to guess. However, when he saw this individual cultivator who came to visit, he definitely didn't expect it to be him. This person was none other than the Qi refinement cultivator Xiaohua, saved outside Haoming City, by Fengliang. However, at this time, Bai Fengliang was already a Foundation Establishment cultivator. He wore a light blue Daoist robe and looked quite imposing. Seeing Xiaohua appear at the entrance of the Imperial Thunder sect, Bai Fengliang's face showed a trace of joy, and a trace of ecstasy. He almost lost his composure and took a few steps forward. Then he stopped and waited there respectfully. Bai Fengliang, why are you looking for me? Could it be? Xiaohua was very afraid of the Heavenly Demon sect when he was in Haoming City and didn't understand the situation. So he used the Foundation Establishment pill as bait to let Bai Fengliang go to the Heavenly Demon sect to be his eyes and ears. However, he also made it clear to Bai Fengliang that everything depended on Bai Fengliang's willingness. If he didn't want to tell him the situation of the heavenly demon sect, Xiaohua would absolutely not force him. However, seeing Bai Fengliang today was absolutely unexpected. He didn't expect Bai Fengliang to take the initiative to come to him and report the situation of the heavenly demon sect to him. Fellow Taoist Xiao, Bai Fengliang bowed very elegantly and said, "I've long admired your name and even wanted to make friends with you. Now that I've taken the liberty to come here, please forgive me." Xiaohua blinked and smiled bitterly in his heart. He then cupped his hands and said, "I'm just an ordinary cultivator of the Imperial Thunder sect. How could I have any reputation? Fellow Taoist, Bai must be joking." "Haha, fellow Taoist Xiao, this isn't the place to talk. I've prepared some wine. How about inviting fellow Taoist Xiao?" "Very good." Xiaohua was also unsure whether the Imperial Thunder sect's encampment would allow the so-called rogue cultivator, Bai Fengliang, who was actually a disciple of the Devil sect, to enter. Since Bai Fengliang had already prepared a place, he also nodded his head. Seeing Bai Fengliang leading the way, Xiaohua hurriedly asked, "Fellow Taoist Bai, are we going to the Heavenly Survey Tea House?" "Sky Patrol Tea House?" Bai Fengliang was stunned for a moment before he said with a smile, "No, I'm staying at an inn in Sentry City. It's very peaceful there, so I'd like to invite fellow cultivator Xiao to have a chat there." "Very good." Hearing that it wasn't the Sky Survey Tea House, Xiaohua felt relieved. Since he knew how filthy the Sky Survey Tea House was, Xiaohua didn't even want to take a single step into it. He even thought that if he met Ziyi in the future, he would definitely tell him not to take even half a step into that tea house. Bai Fengliang followed Bai Fengliang to the inn and opened the door to enter. Bai Fengliang immediately bowed and said, "Bai Fengliang greets the Vice Sect Master." "Ah." Xiaohua was stunned. Then his magic power surged, and he naturally prepared to kill Bai Fengliang on the spot. However, he heard Bai Fengliang say, "Bai Fengliang is really blind." He actually didn't know the identity of the Vice Sect Master. "If the Sect Master didn't ask me to come here to greet the Vice Sect Master, I would still be in the dark." "Oh, that's right." Xiaohua suddenly realized. Zhang Qingxiao, that bastard, said that he would only attack after he personally introduced me. Not now. However, Xiaohua immediately had an impulse from his heart. An impulse to stretch out his leg and kick Zhang Qingxiao twice. An impulse to kick Zhang Qingxiao's white face that was popular throughout the Donrain continent into a persimmon. Damn it, when did I become the vice sect leader of the Heavenly Demon sect? Feeling that Xiaohua's situation was not right, Bai Fengliang hurriedly said, "Don't worry, Vice Sect Master Xiao. Only I know about this. When I received the Sect Master's order, I also made a blood oath that I would never reveal it. Don't worry, Vice Sect Master." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "Get up." Then he sat on the bed in the room and looked around. With a wave of his hand, dozens of rabbit talismans flew out. "Oh, that's right, these rabbit talismans can now be refined with jade marrow." Xiaohua saw the rabbit talismans fly out and grabbed with his hand, activating the array. He couldn't help but think to himself, Vice Sect Master Xiao is indeed skilled. Seeing Xiaohua casually set up the array, Bai Fengliang's heart was filled with respect. Xiaohua nodded and asked, "Why did the Sect Master send you here? Does he know that you know me?" "Yes, Vice Sect Master Xiao knows." Bai Fengliang stood there respectfully and replied, "After I received the Foundation Establishment pill from Vice Sect Master, I quickly reached the Foundation Establishment realm. Thus, there was an envoy from the Sage Sect who came to find me. At the same time, he asked for my opinion and brought me to the Sage Sect." Sage Sect? Xiaohua snickered and thought, this Zhang Qingxiao is really good at pranking. Isn't it just the Heavenly Demon Sect? What Sage Sect? What a welcoming envoy. After passing the Sage Sect's envoy's assessment and considering my physique, I was allowed to enter the Pure Lotus sect of the 13 sacred sects, Bai Fengliang said again. In the past few decades, I've been practicing hard and my progress is not bad. I've gained the favor of the sect's venerable, so I was sent out to gain experience. A few days ago, when I was in Haoming City, I received the Sect Master's order. This order was issued by a venerable on behalf of the Sect Master. At that time, there were many sacred sect disciples in Haoming City, and there were 11 of them who had reached the foundation establishment realm. Because I practiced the Taoist sect's cultivation method, and used to be a rogue cultivator, I was sent to meet Vice Sect Master Xiao. As far as I know, the sect master doesn't know that I've met Vice Sect Master Xiao. Oh, I see. Hearing Bai Fengliang's complicated explanation, Xiaohua frowned. However, he heard that Zhang Qingxiao didn't issue the sect master's order directly. It was issued when they met outside the Sky Patrol City last time. Thinking that Zhang Qingxiao had brought the elixir he needed so quickly, he felt warm in his heart. Give it to me, Xiaohua said as he stretched out his hand. Yes. Bai Fengliang wasn't surprised. He carefully took out a storage bag from his chest and handed it to Xiaohua. Xiaohua took the storage bag and scanned it with his divine thought. He frowned and said, "Why is there so little?" "This is too little?" Bai Fengliang's heart skipped a beat. He was secretly shocked, but he didn't dare to show it. He said in a low voice, "Vice Sect Master Xiao, these are all the elixir pills in Haoming City. Elixir pills from the other 7 major cities are also being collected. When the elixir pills are found, they will be sent to Sky Patrol City. At that time, I will give it to Vice Sect Master Xiao until Vice Sect Master Xiao thinks it's suitable." "And that's more like it." Xiaohua nodded slightly. With a wave of his hand, he put the storage bag containing more than 60 dry distance pills into his space. In addition, there are instructions in the sect master's order. "Vice Sect Master, if you need anything, you can tell me. I have the sect master's order in my hand, and I can mobilize most of the disciples in the sacred sect," Bai Fengliang said respectfully. "What else do you want?" Xiaohua thought for a moment and shook his head with a smile. "Forget it, take these things first." "Yes, I understand," Bai Fengliang replied carefully. "By the way, Bai Fengliang, do you still remember what you told me that day?" Xiaohua said with a smile. "What sacred sect, and what are the 13 sects?" Hearing Xiaohua asking about the 13 holy sects, Bai Fengliang was slightly taken aback. However, after pondering for a moment, his expression changed slightly. He smiled apologetically and said, "Vice Sect Leader Xiao, please don't make fun of me. You are the Vice Sect Master of the Heavenly Demon Sect. How can you not know about the 13 sects?" Xiaohua stared into Bai Fengliang's eyes and asked word by word, "Bai Fengliang, look at me carefully. Do you think I'm the Vice Sect Master of your Heavenly Demon Sect?" This Bai Fengliang bit his lips, as if he was thinking and hesitating. "In the jade slip that the Sect Master of your Heavenly Demon Sect gave you, did he say that I'm the Vice Sect Master?" Xiaohua asked coldly. I don't remember it clearly." Bai Fengliang woke up and smiled apologetically. The jade slip that came with the sect master's order can only be read once. Moreover, I was too excited and I didn't see it clearly. "What if you said it was Vice Sect Master Xiao? Or Xiaohua, Vice Sect Master?" Xiaohua asked again. "It seems to be Xiaohua, Vice Sect Master." Bai Fengliang hesitated for a moment before answering. "And it's good that you understand." Xiaohua nodded and sneered. "I'm only at the Foundation Establishment realm. How can I be the Vice Sect Master? I'm afraid that when you saw my name and the Vice Sect Master's title, you thought. That's why you mistook me for the Vice Sect Master." Bai Fengliang's face immediately turned red. Xiaohua's words hit the nail on the head, revealing his joy at that time. When he saw Xiaohua's name, he was astonished. While he was shocked, he also let his imagination run wild. To be able to form a relationship with the Vice Sect Master of the Heavenly Demon Sect, he really understood what kind of glorious future he would have in the Heavenly Demon Sect in the future. As for the content after that, he was really in a trance. "I was indeed a little too pleased with myself," Bai Fengliang replied embarrassedly. "And this Vice Sect Master is someone else. You don't need to worry about who it is. Just follow the instructions on your sect master's order and give the item to me." Xiaohua nodded and said, "However, at this time, it's up to you to fulfill your promise." "Of course, Bai Fengliang, if you're not willing, you don't need to answer. I definitely won't force you." Speaking up to here, Xiaohua asked again. Bai Fengliang was forced into a helpless state, and a pitiful expression appeared on his face. After all, he wasn't sure if this was the heavenly demon sect's probing technique. If he didn't answer well, he would be killed. Chapter 2483. This lowly one by Fengliang smiled apologetically. This lowly one is just an ordinary disciple of the Holy Gate. Fellow Taoist Xiao, and if you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Xiaohua smiled faintly. After all, you and I had such an agreement back then. Many thanks, fellow Taoist Xiao. Bai Fengliang really wanted to call Xiaohua Deputy Sect Master Xiao. If you have any more things coming for me in the future, feel free to come to the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment to find me. Xiaohua waved his hand, and was about to put away the rabbit array. But at that moment, Bai Fengliang's body trembled and he hurriedly shouted, Fellow Taoist Xiao, please wait. Oh, is there anything else? Xiaohua asked curiously. It's like this. Bai Fengliang bit his lips and said, I was able to join the Holy Gate and have my current achievements all because of fellow Taoist Xiao's guidance and arrangements. That day, fellow Taoist Xiao had an agreement with me. Although I didn't agree to it, I already agreed in my heart. Since fellow Taoist Xiao asked about it today, how could I dare to hide it? Oh, is that so? Xiaohua smiled and said, I'm not some deputy sect master of your Holy Gate. Moreover, I might have been sent by your sect master to test you. Bai Fengliang's face was filled with embarrassment as he said, even if fellow Taoist Xiao was sent by my Holy Gate to test me, I still owe fellow Taoist Xiao a favor. I can't not repay this favor. And, alright, tell me what you know. Xiaohua didn't sit down but stood there and said. A faint smile flashed across Bai Fengliang's face as if a heavy stone had been lifted off his chest. He said, actually, ever since I joined the Holy Gate, I have always remembered fellow Taoist Zhao's words. I have always paid attention to the Holy Gate situation. However, the Holy Gate's rules are very strict, and the various sects don't have much interaction with each other. I only know about my Pure Lotus sect. Oh, then tell me about the 13 holy sects first? Xiaohua was bewildered when he heard this. No matter how he heard it, this so-called 13 sacred sects seemed to be related to the Buddhist sect. He didn't know what Zhang Qingxiao meant by turning the heavenly demon sect into this state, so he asked with interest. The 13 sacred sects are the heavenly demon sect, Tiangang sect, Tianfan sect, earthly fiend sect, earthly Ao sect, earthly spirit sect, human enlightenment sect, human splendor sect, human Zen sect, pure lotus sect, pure land sect, Yin-yang sect, and fairy sect. However, apart from Lu Weigang, the sect master of the pure lotus sect, I don't know who the deputy sect masters of the other 12 sects are. Bai Fengliang smiled bitterly. Lu Weigang? Xiaohua is stunned. Is this Lu Weigang a former Changbai sect disciple? I don't know. Bai Fengliang shook his head and said. However, the pristine Lotus sect cultivates orthodox Taoist spells. Many of our disciples come from independent cultivators or other cultivation sections. Many of them are disciples of other sects. As he spoke, Lu Weigang thoughtfully looked at Xiaohua. What else? Xiaohua asked again. Bai Fengliang shook his head helplessly. Fellow Taoist Xiao, believe it or not, this is all I know. I don't know anything more. Oh right, there's another news. I've only heard that the heavenly demon sect is going to be established. Seeing that Bai Fengliang really knew very little, Xiaohua was extremely disappointed. However, he was really happy for Zhang Qingxiao in his heart. After all, to be able to operate a devil sect to such a strict level was really not easy. Xiaohua was confident that he could not do it. However, Xiaohua asked curiously, what? Hasn't the heavenly demon sect already been established? Why do you still want to establish a sect? I don't know. Bai Fengliang smiled apologetically. But it's all rumors. I don't know either. Well, okay. Xiaohua nodded and asked, what cultivation method are you cultivating? What other elixirs do you need? Bai Fengliang's face showed joy and said, I'm cultivating a cultivation method of the Pure Lotus sect. However, I only have half of the cultivation method for the early and middle stages of the foundation establishment realm. Moreover, I need all the elixirs that fellow Taoist Xiao usually uses. Show me your cultivation method. Xiaohua very naturally raised his hand. Yes. Bai Fengliang did not dare to neglect and showed his cultivation method to Xiao Hua. Well, so it's this. Xiao Hua nodded and clapped his hand. He also took out a jade slip and handed it to Bai Fengliang. This jade slip is also bestowed. Take it, it should be at the late stage of the foundation establishment realm. In addition, I'll give you these elixirs as well. Consider it as thanks for your hard work in Sky Patrol City. As he spoke, Xiao Hua took out another storage bag. Bai Fengliang was overjoyed. When he finished looking at the contents of the storage bag, he was even more ecstatic. He bowed and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Xiao. Thank you, Deputy Sect Leader." Well, Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "I'll tell him about your matter. In addition, you can show this jade slip to Sect Leader before this matter is over. Remember, it's a matter of life and death." This is. When Bai Fengliang heard this, cold sweat immediately appeared on his forehead. He said in extreme panic, I know. Thank you, fellow Taoist Xiao." At this moment, Bai Fengliang finally understood that his mission was absolutely dangerous. If it were not for Xiao Hua's jade slip, his life would really be in danger. Nonsense. Seeing Bai Fengliang's ashen face, Xiao Hua sneered. Only the two of them knew about his relationship with Zhang Qingxiao. Since Zhang Qingxiao dared to mention Deputy Sect Leader Xiao in the jade slip, then Bai Fengliang would definitely die after seeing this jade slip. Zhang Qingxiao would definitely kill him to silence him. In fact, not only Zhang Qingxiao, even Xiao Hua had this intention. If it were not for Zhang Qingxiao wanting to go to Heng Country, and Xiao Hua urgently needing this pill, Zhang Qingxiao would definitely come personally and not let others do it. However, Zhang Qingxiao's subordinate just happened to be someone familiar with Xiao Hua. After Xiao Hua probed, he felt that Bai Fengliang was still trustworthy, so he had the intention to protect himself. As long as you remember, some things must be buried in your heart for a lifetime. This is the only way to preserve your life. Xiao Hua made a grabbing motion, and a dozen talismans fell into his hand. He said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Bai, you can open the room's restriction now." "Yes, I'll open it now." Bai Fengliang hurriedly activated the token and opened the room's restriction. He said respectfully, "I'll send fellow Taoist Xiao out." "No need. You just need to do your job well." Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "I still have other things to do, you can just stay here." "Yes, I understand." Bai Fengliang nodded and asked again, "If other big cities have things coming over, how can I find fellow Taoist?" "Use the messaging talisman." Xiao Hua thought for a moment, then clapped his hand and took out his messaging talisman and handed it to Bai Fengliang. After Bai Fengliang received it, Xiao Hua turned around and walked out of the room, quickly leaving the inn. Although Xiao Hua's face was calm, he muttered in his heart, "Second senior brother's ambition is really big." He ignited the sword Dao battle, and he took advantage of the chaos to rob. Presumably, he wants to take advantage of the fact that the other sects have no time to care about him, and announce the Heavenly Demon sect to the public. This courage. Tessie. He's really a good disciple of Master. When he thought of Xiao Yuehang, he thought of his lazy and idle cultivation attitude. It was this little cultivator who stood aloof from worldly affairs that was killed by 3 nascent soul cultivators. The Heavenly Tao was really heartless. Since the Heavenly Tao was heartless, why would Xiao Hua stop Zhang Qingxiao from establishing the sect? With a swoosh sound, another messaging talisman flew to Xiao Hua's front. Oh! Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and took the messaging talisman. He looked at it with his divine thought and said with a smile, "It seems that what will come will come." Then he did not go in the direction of the Imperial Thunder sect's encampment. Instead, he turned around and went to the city gate of Sky Patrol City. When he arrived at the city gate, he saw that the security was extremely tight. The cultivators who came in were considered good, but the cultivators who went out were all interrogated. Xiao Hua looked at it coldly, knowing that it was the aftermath of his assassination of Tu Hong. If I can find any flaws in this place, can I still be an expert who can kill a golden core cultivator? Xiao Hua sneered secretly. Big brother. Xiao Hua had just stood still when an extremely familiar divine thought swept over him. Xiao Mao's voice was heard not far away. Xiao Hua looked up and saw Li Zongbao and Xiao Mao standing in a corner a few hundred feet away from the city gate. They were quietly watching everything that happened at the city gate. Little brother greets senior brother Li. Xiao Hua walked slowly to Li Zongbao and cupped his hands. Senior brother, you called me over. Are you going out of Sky Patrol City? Yes, Li Zongbao said faintly. Now that the war has begun, it's the best time for us to kill Qin Jian. If we don't go now, when will we? Yes, I'll listen to senior brother Li's orders. Xiao Hua smiled, but then he asked curiously, but, senior brother Li, don't you have a special order from the conference hall? Why don't you use the teleportation formation, but go out through this place? The teleportation formation is currently transporting disciples from various sects out. It's very busy. Xiao Mao answered excitedly, as if killing Qin Jian was something that he yearned for day and night. Well, that's one of the reasons. There's another reason. I'll explain it to you when we're out of Sky Patrol City. Li Zongbao waved his hand. Yes, Xiao Hua was puzzled, but he still answered. Most of the cultivators who were going out of Sky Patrol City were not participating in the war. Their cultivation levels were only around the beginner stage of the Foundation establishment realm. They were reluctant to use the teleportation formation of Sky Patrol City, so they could only go out through the city gate. There were many of them, and they were in groups. There were actually a few long lines in front of the city gate. Li Zongbao did not care about these ordinary cultivators at all. He clapped his hands and took out the special order from the conference hall. He raised his hand and walked past the crowd to the front of the line. Where did this cultivator come from? Why is he so unruly? A cultivator in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm said anxiously. We're all going out. Why are you? A cultivator next to him hurriedly pulled the cultivator's sleeve and whispered a few words. The cultivator shrunk his neck and stopped talking. Li Zongbao turned around and looked at them coldly. He then walked to the front of two city guards in the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Chapter 2484. The two city guards had already seen Li Zongbao coming out from the crowd. They looked at each other and quickly stepped in front of Li Zongbao and the other two. Fellow cultivator from the Utopia faction, the city guard in front raised his hand and said coldly, although you are a disciple participating in the battle, according to the rules of the Sky Patrol City, you still have to line up at the back. Please don't overstep. Li Zongbao raised his hand, and the council hall's special permit was held in front of the city guard. What's this? The city guard was slightly stunned. This is the special permit of the Yinchi Mansion's council hall. We want to go out of the Sky Patrol City. Please make an exception. Xiao Mao knew that Li Zongbao was impatient with the city guards of the Sky Patrol City, so he quickly cupped his hands and said. The city guard frowned and scanned the special permit with his divine thought. He said lightly, the special permit of the council hall is used by all cultivation sections. Of course, it can be used in the Sky Patrol City. However, the city governor of the Sky Patrol City has issued a ban. In order to find the swordsman who assassinated Senior Tu Hong, we must strengthen the investigation of the cultivators entering and leaving the Sky Patrol City. Fellow cultivator, please go back and line up. How dare you? Xiao Hua scolded. Isn't the Sky Patrol City under the jurisdiction of the council hall? Don't the city guards of the Sky Patrol City obey the special permit of the council hall? If so, I'll go back and ask the elders of the council hall. When did the Sky Patrol City run out of the jurisdiction of the council hall? Don't. Another city guard next to him poked the city guard and smiled apologetically. Fellow cultivators, don't be anxious. My junior brother is Senior Tu Hong's disciple. He has not rested for dozens of days in order to find the swordsman who killed Senior Tuesday. Fellow cultivators. You know that Qin Jian is the public enemy of all cultivators. We are looking for Qin Jian for the benefit of everyone. So, haha, since that's the case, this Xiao understands. Xiao Hua smiled. However, I heard that Qin Jian is an illusory swordsman who can assassinate Senior Tuesday. I'm afraid it's not easy for you to arrest him, right? Yes. The city guard took 2 steps forward and said with a smile. That may be the case, but we still have to do our best. We have to let Senior Tu Hong rest in peace. We went to Sky Patrol City because of this, Xiao Mao said with a smile. We also received news that Qin Jian is somewhere in Huan Nation. Speaking of this, Xiao Mao looked embarrassed. While the Sky Patrol City was arresting Qin Jian, Xiao Mao was searching for news of Qin Jian in the Huan Kingdom. Didn't this mean that the city guards of the Sky Patrol City were busy? Yes, there are too many rumors at this time. No one can tell which one is true. As long as we have the heart and effort, Senior 2 will be happy. The city guard reached out and took Li Zongbao's special permit. After examining it carefully for a moment, he smiled apologetically and said, "This is indeed the special permit of the assembly hall. It's not fake. If we don't even acknowledge the conference hall's special order, and can't even be trusted, then who can? Fellow Taoists, please." After saying that, the city guard returned the special order to Li Zongbao, and waved his hand to instruct the city guards guarding the city gate to move aside. What surprised Xiao Hua was that Li Zongbao, who was usually very arrogant, did not say much at this time. He coldly took the special order, and led the way through the gap made by the city guards. When they passed through the city gate, a faint brilliance flashed between the city gates. Li Zongbao paused for a moment, and waited for the brilliance to dissipate before he followed Xiao Hua and Xiao Mao out of Sky Patrol City. "Where's the flowing cloud flying ship?" Li Zongbao shouted as soon as he exited the city gate. "It's here." Xiao Hua hurriedly took out the flowing cloud flying ship. "Let's go." Li Zongbao flew onto the flying ship and said only one word. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked into the distance. Xiao Hua did not dare to be negligent. He urged the flying ship, and the three of them quickly rushed towards the northern sky. Behind them, several gazes swept past before slowly retracting. After flying for half a day, Li Zongbao did not say a word at all. When he saw flashes of lightning in the sky and ice pellets falling from the sky, Li Zongbao turned his head and ordered, "Xiao Mao, you take over from Xiao Hua. I have something to ask Xiao Hua." "Yes, I understand." Xiao Mao quickly walked in front of Xiao Hua and sat down cross-legged to take control of the flowing cloud flying ship. Xiao Hua walked in front of Li Zongbao and asked curiously, "Senior brother Li, what's the matter?" "You killed Tu Hong." Li Zongbao did not open his mouth and only transmitted his voice. However, this faint transmission and Li Zongbao's unquestionable tone were like a thunderclap that struck Xiao Hua's heart. Crack! Coincidentally, a bolt of lightning struck the left side of the flowing cloud flying ship. Xiao Hua's pupils shrank slightly, but then he smiled without changing his expression and said, "Senior brother Li, could it be that you want to take credit? Even if you want to take credit, you don't need to use me as bait." Although Xiao Hua looked as if nothing had happened, his heart was in a perilous situation. He definitely did not expect that someone would link him to Tu Hong's death, and this person was actually Li Zongbao. Therefore, although his reply sounded very calm, the words in his words could not stand up to scrutiny. However, Li Zongbao did not care about the inappropriateness of Xiao Hua's words. He stared straight into Li Zongbao's eyes and said indifferently, "I am very conflicted about Tu Fu's death. On one hand, he was a rare commander in our Dao sect. With his command, our Dao sect cultivators should be safe and sound before the nascent soul masters arrive. But on the other hand, he viewed human lives as grass and destroyed tens of thousands of lives in the blink of an eye. And junior brother Xiao and the others were also part of his scheme." Xiao Hua fearlessly met Li Zongbao's aggressive gaze, and also looked straight at him, quietly listening. "Logically, I should protect him and ensure his safety. But emotionally, I want to kill him with my own hands." Of course, junior brother Xiao was tricked by him and many of us were in danger. I also feel that it is normal for you to want to kill him. However, if it was only because of this, I feel that you would not be so impatient. It would be best to kill him after the battle. But what he should not have done the most was to scheme against Dui Qiming. Dui Qiming is Cui Hongshan's dual cultivation partner. Although the majority of cultivators do not know about this, it is not a secret to Golden Core cultivators. If you had not killed Tu Hong that day, Dui Qiming would have held the dual cultivation ceremony with Tu Hong with the support of the Snow Region's Taoist master. By the time the dual cultivation ceremony was held, everything would have been too late, right? Li Zongbao looked at Xiaohua's eyes and a trace of warmth flashed through them. Therefore you had no choice but to take the risk and kill Tu Hong before the dual cultivation ceremony. Brotherly is really imaginative. These little brothers would never dream of it. And you can even think of the things that my junior brother Cui would dream of. This little brother really admires you. How could Xiaohua admit it? Naturally, he replied with a smile. Although Senior Tu Hong put us in danger, this little brother benefited from the disaster. Apart from Cui Hongshan's matter, this little brother can't thank him enough. Of course, this little brother was indeed angry about Dui Qiming's matter, but now that I think about it, Cui Hongshan was already dead and Dui Qiming had no one to rely on. Dual cultivation with Tu Hong was not a bad thing. Besides, Cui Hongshan has always been at odds with this little brother. In the Myriad Thunder Valley he was also at odds with this little brother. He always made this little brother call him senior brother. Why would this little brother care about him? Junior brother Xiao, don't tell me that you don't know Tu Hong's true motive for marrying Dui Qiming. Li Zongbao's cheeks twitched as he asked with dissatisfaction. Oh, what other motive? This little brother really doesn't know? Xiaohua asked curiously. Even if Dui Qiming is a human cauldron, it is still a rare opportunity for Dui Qiming. Looking at Xiaohua's face that was as pure as Xiantian true water, Li Zongbao really wanted to punch this guy's face. However, he still restrained himself and told Xiaohua everything he knew. He then asked, think about it, if Dui Qiming married Tu Hong, what would happen to her? There is definitely only one outcome. Impossible. Xiaohua's face was extremely shocked. Then he waved his hand in disbelief. If Dui Qiming died, how could my Imperial Thunder Sex Lord not know? Dui Qiming's natal spiritual tablet is still in the Jade Archive Hall. Junior brother Xiao. When Dui Qiming marries into Sky Patrol City, her natal spiritual tablet will be handed over to Sky Patrol City. This is a valuable gift that your sect must give to Sky Patrol City during Dui Qiming's dual cultivation ceremony. It is said that the palace master of your Imperial Thunder Sex Dui Lei Palace personally came to Sky Patrol City for this matter. However, because Tu Hong's scheme was exposed, she did not even get off the Thunder Boat. Li Zongbao explained. Besides, Dui Qiming's soul was transferred into Yu Meng's body. How could Dui Qiming's natal spiritual tablet be damaged? This Xiaohua was just asking casually. When he heard this, he could only smile bitterly. This Tu Hong. I really did not expect him to be so shrewd. I am definitely not as shrewd as him. You really don't know? Li Zongbao laughed. That day, the assassin even took out Yu Meng's corpse. How about this? That's an assassin, that's a Golden Core Realm cultivator. That's something that disciples like you who have backing can know. If it wasn't for Brotherly mentioning it today, I would never have imagined that there would be so many fishy things about it. Xiaohua naturally didn't admit it. Ha ha ha. Li Zongbao raised his face and laughed. Junior brother Xiao, if it was someone else, they would naturally not think that the swordsman who looks exactly like Qin Jian is you. However, don't forget that I am acquainted with Wuxia, her secret technique. See, Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. He suddenly thought, isn't that right? I originally thought that only Fairy Hongxia knew about the sky-stealing sun-swapping secret technique. However, I forgot about Li Zongbao. He has seen Kai Wuxia before. That's not right. Xiaohua suddenly woke up again. Although Li Zongbao and Kai Wuxia were a couple, he had only seen Kai Wuxia's appearance after she changed her appearance. He didn't know Kai Wuxia's true appearance. He was tricking him. Sighed Brotherly. After Xiaohua recovered from his daze, he smiled bitterly. Don't be jealous of me. As the saying goes, the 9 sons of the dragon are all different. My fairy Hongxia is as beautiful as a flower. Your Wuxia. She is actually not bad. Don't suspect me just because of this. Chapter 2485. Seeing Xiaohua's astonishment, Li Zongbao was already satisfied. However, after hearing Xiaohua's words, his eyes flashed with a trace of tenderness, but this tenderness was instantly extinguished by his indifference. Actually, these are not important, Li Zongbao said indifferently. These only show that you have the intention to assassinate Tu Hong. The most important thing is that you have the strength to assassinate Tu Hong. Moreover, you have the time to assassinate Tu Hong. Brother Li's words make me even more confused. Xiaohua shrugged his shoulders. His expression seemed relaxed, but the mana in his body was constantly on high alert. The matter of him assassinating Tu Hong had really pierced through the heavens. He had directly stepped on the face of Shui Yu's spiritual master. Xiaohua had already offended spiritual master Jingru. Now that Shui Yu's spiritual master knew the truth, did he still want to live? Master Shui Yu and Master Shui Yu were different. Master Shui Yu did not dare to brazenly go to Sky Thunder Peak, but Master Shui Yu dared to. He could even directly capture Xiaohua, and did not need to care about Master Qian Lazy of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Therefore, Xiaohua did not dare to be careless, even if he was facing Li Zongbao, who he trusted more. Little brother's cultivation is only at the early stage of foundation establishment. With the addition of my secret technique, I am at most at the late stage of foundation establishment. And, even if I am at the early stage of gold core, it is still impossible for me to compare to Senior Tu Hong. Xiaohua said innocently. If we are talking about junior brother Zhao's cultivation, how could others know more than me? Li Zongbao said with a smile. Previously, junior brother Xiao was brave and invincible. You killed a weapon cultivator and a beast cultivator, and you also saved Xiao Mao from a sword cultivator. And, that terrifying phoenix name, you didn't get it for nothing, right? When junior brother Xiao used that technique, I'm afraid you didn't think about killing Tu Hong in the future, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have revealed it like this. Senior brother Li. Seeing Li Zongbao speak so bluntly, Xiaohua coldly said, if this little brother can kill Tu Hong, then Senior Marshal Brother Li probably won't be a match for this little brother. Senior Marshal Brother Li, are you not afraid that this little brother will kill you? I'm quite good at judging people. You are not the kind of person who willfully kills the innocent. And this point, Wuxia also said. Back then, although you were only in the second layer of qi refining, she said your future was limitless. When I saw you for the second time, I was already aware of it. Li Zongbao seemed to really be at ease with Xiaohua and spoke without hiding anything. Xiaohua scratched his head and said very strangely, Brother Li, you're talking about so many strange things. This makes little brother puzzled. What does this have to do with me? Actually, I've been wondering about two things for the past 10 days or so. Li Zongbao did not answer Xiaohua's question. Instead, he muttered to himself. There is no doubt that you can kill Tu Hong. But how could you transform into Qin Jian? Furthermore, you can actually use a sword array. Then the 64 flying swords that killed Tu Hong in the end, where did they come from? Xiaohua laughed out loud. So Li Zongbao really did not know about Kai Zhuoxia's secret technique. It was only because he saw that Fairy Hongxia's beauty was far from Kai Zhuoxia's that he lied to him. He then said, that was Qin Jian from the start, not me. How is it possible for Qin Jian to sneak into Sky Patrol City? Li Zongbao shook his head slightly. Do you think Shui Yu Dao Master is a golden core cultivator? Furthermore, that day was also strange. Why did Shui Yu Dao Master leave the city? Even until now, I still have not figured it out. Even my master can't explain it. Martial Uncle Hung Ming. Xiaohua's face turned extremely ugly. If Li Zongbao was here to frighten him, he would not mind. But, this matter actually involved Hung Ming. Do you think that you do things flawlessly? Li Zongbao saw Xiaohua's expression change and said indifferently. Do you think that the Golden Core cultivators in the meeting hall are all idiots? Do you think that after rescuing Xiao Mao and the Xuanyan school disciples from the Gale Snowfield Spirit Stone vein, you can brush it off with just a few words of evasiveness? Not to mention my master, even Tu Hong. He is famous in the meeting hall for strategizing. I'm afraid that he would have long suspected your cultivation level. But you can rest assured that I have already told my master that I will not report a word of your actions to him. He also knows my painstaking efforts and did not interrogate me. He just said some of his own thoughts in front of me. What? Xiaohua almost cried out in surprise. He really did not expect that his actions were so secretive, but he was still seen through by others. There is one more thing that I'm afraid you yourself did not think of. Li Zongbao glanced at Xiao Hua and said, when you finally escaped from under the nose of Shui Yu Dao Master, you used the Devil Sect movement technique. Shui Yu Dao Master had already seen through it. A few Golden Core cultivators, including my master, also received this news from Sky Patrol City. This news may be able to cover up something for you. But when it fell into my eyes, I could not help but think of the enmity between you and the Devil Sect cultivators on the way back to Sky Patrol City. Xiao Hua's face turned ugly. He, junior brother Xiao, you can rest assured. Li Zongbao said again. My master and a group of Golden Core cultivators are just suspicious of your cultivation. As for the matter of you killing Tu Hong, I'm afraid they have not contacted you yet. Of course, it is precisely because of the conflict between the Golden Core cultivators and Tu Hong, the representative of Sky Patrol City, that you are temporarily protected. This is only temporary. Whether you will be protected in the future is not something I can guess. I did not assassinate Tu Hong at all. Xiao Hua immediately denied. Li Zongbao still ignored him and said, of course, from the current situation, Tu Hong did not have time to report your performance in the meeting hall to Sky Patrol City. That is to say, Shui Yu Dao Master does not know that your cultivation is close to the middle stage of Golden Core. Otherwise, he would not have made such a big fuss. Instead, he would have gone directly to the Imperial Thunder Sect station to take you down. This is also the reason why I brought you out of Sky Patrol City last time, and this time. At this time, he has not seen Tu Hong's jade slip, but he will see it sooner or later. As long as he sees that you are a threat to Tu Hong, and you are Cui Hongshan's senior brother, then you will definitely be in trouble. The teleportation formation in Sky Patrol City is heavily guarded. Shui Yu Dao Master's divine thought is left there. If you are noticed by him, I'm afraid there will be some twists and turns. Therefore, I can only bring you out of Sky Patrol City through the gate. The gate of Sky Patrol City is guarded by a Golden Core cultivator, so it is not dangerous. Oh, no wonder Li Zongbao was so patient just now. So that's why. Xiao Hua immediately thought of the situation when he was about to leave the city gate. If it was before, he would have been angry, right? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua's heart warmed. However, he still could not admit it. He smiled and said, I am a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Even if Shui Yu Dao Master is a nascent soul cultivator, he can't ignore my identity as a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect, right? Even if he sees me, he can't directly say that I am a sword cultivator, right? You should say this to Qian Mo. Li Zongbao sneered. Didn't you see Qian Mo's performance in the meeting hall? You killed many sword cultivators and brought back the corpses of the Imperial Thunder Sect cultivators. What was his attitude? Other than protesting, what else did he have? When you were forced to take out the flowing cloud-flying boat, what was his attitude? Other than returning it, he could only let the younger generation solve it, right? Do you think he would offend Shui Yu Dao Master for you? It's good enough that he didn't sell you out. Moreover, don't have any illusions about Yanxi Prefecture. Don't forget that when Cui Hongshan and the others came back, all the Golden Core Masters knew about it. My master was also present. They interrogated Cui Hongshan and the others more than 10 times and almost searched their souls. They just wanted to know how they survived. But did they mention Dui Qiming? My master told me clearly that he just wanted to see the Imperial Thunder Sect make a fool of themselves. He wanted to see how the Imperial Thunder Sect would explain to Tu Hong and Shui Yu Dao Master. After all, that day in the meeting hall, Dui Qiming had already said that her lover was the surviving Cui Hongshan. But he didn't expect that Qian Mo actually dared to hide it from Cui Hongshan. He still wanted Dui Qiming to marry Tu Hong, and none of the Golden Core cultivators mentioned this matter. They all wanted to see how this so-called heaven-sent karma would end up. Even Xiao Hua, regarding your sect's senior Qian Leizi, don't have too much hope. This matter, he might not be completely ignorant. Qian Mo, he might not have such big guts. To put it bluntly, he is just a messenger. He can only shirk responsibility when something happens. Xiao Hua looked at Li Zongbao with an uncertain expression. These words were what he suspected, and also what he didn't want to believe. But since Hung Feng said it, How could he not believe it? Actually, I don't need to say so much to you, but I'm really worried that you don't understand. Li Zongbao sighed at the end. These words. I'd rather rot in my stomach, but I have to say it to you today because I want to tell you that Xiaoyu mainland is not a simple place. This Sky Patrol City is a den of tigers and wolves. Now that you've left Sky Patrol City, then don't ever step into Sky Patrol City again. Sigh. Xiaohua sighed and bowed. Thank you, Brother Li. Even if I'm not the one who killed Tu Hong, I'm really touched by Brother Li's frank and sincere words. No need. Li Zongbao waved his hand. A trace of sadness flashed in his eyes. Of course, when I bid farewell to Wuxia, she also asked me to take care of you. But I didn't expect. It's only been a few decades, and I'm already unable to take care of you. Besides, in the future, I owe Brother Li in the future? Xiaohua was slightly stunned. He felt that Li Zongbao's thoughts of loving the house, and he was very worried. Hee, it's nothing. Li Zongbao laughed. My cultivation method is going to improve again. You should be happy for me. Oh yes, congratulations, Senior Brother Li. Xiaohua didn't understand Li Zongbao's thoughts, so he could only cup his hands in respect. Also, if you and I are free after the war, do you have time to accompany me to Liang? Li Zongbao raised his eyes and looked out of the flowing cloud-flying boat, seemingly casually asking. Chapter 2486. The dark clouds rushed forward and countless ice pellets hit the airship's defense. The future of the airship was boundless. Li Zongbao sighed and said, Wuxia is also the only one I can't let go of. Xiaohua's heart trembled. He nodded and said, If Senior Brother has an order, how can this little brother dare to disobey? And Li Zongbao didn't say anything else. It was as if he had said all the words he wanted to say in the past few years. Xiaohua was sad. He thought a lot in his heart. What Li Zongbao said was a huge blow to him. He really didn't think that his disguise would be so weak. As long as he knew a little more about him, he would be able to guess that he was the one who killed Tu Hong. His sword cultivation would also appear in front of everyone. If Zhu Qinghe, Xie Zhiqian, or Chen Yi knew that Xiaohua wasn't dead, they would be able to guess that he was a sword cultivator. Then his disguise of killing Tu Hong wouldn't be much of a disguise. This young master has always wanted to hide and not expose some of his strength. But after all, with this kind of strength, there are many things that can't be concealed. And all the concealment is meaningless. Everything depends on strength. Xiaohua sneered. Now that I have exposed some of my strength, it has fallen into the eyes of others. Fortunately, no one knows this young master's bottom line. Shuiyu's spiritual master? Although this young master can't win against him, if he wants to capture this young master, I'm afraid it won't be that simple. Thinking of this, Xiaohua's courage was boosted. He looked at Li Zongbao in front of him again. Li Zongbao's straight body, snow-white hair, and the pure words that were still beside his ear. Xiaohua's heart surged with a trace of warmth. I'm afraid that this kind of love, this kind of sincerity, is where the light of this world lies. Also, according to Li Zongbao's words, it seems the improvement of his cultivation method is not a good thing. Xiaohua's heart suddenly trembled. He immediately turned to look at Xiao Mao. Xiao Mao closed his eyes and concentrated on driving the airship. He didn't hear the sound transmission of the two at all. Xiao Mao. Xiaohua transmitted. Do you know what cultivation technique Senior Martial Brother Li Zongbao is practicing? Xiao Mao was slightly stunned. He opened his eyes and looked at Xiaohua. He also sent a message to Xiaohua. Senior Brother Li Zongbao is the leader of the 3 kingdoms of cultivation. We all know his skills. It's said that it's the secret book of the Utopia faction, Li Qing's treasure mirror. Big brother. Oh, what's so special about this cultivation method? Xiaohua didn't like the name of this cultivation method. Of course, I don't know the details. Xiao Mao said embarrassedly. However, the way of heaven is ruthless. If you want to get close to the way of heaven, you have to get rid of your human desires first. The Li Qing treasured mirror is said to be the skill that is closest to the way of heaven in the Utopia faction. The heavenly Tao is heartless, but cultivators have feelings. Just for the sake of pursuing the heavenly Tao, he had to cut off his lust? Is that still a cultivator? Xiaohua smiled bitterly. However, since this cultivation method was the secret book of the Utopia faction, and Li Zongbao also relied on this cultivation method to achieve such a high cultivation, it could only mean that this cultivation method was effective. What could Xiaohua say? Perhaps, after Li Zongbao went to Luyang and saw Wuxia's corpse, he really abandoned the lust of a cultivator. Xiaohua understood. Moreover, during this period, the indifference in Li Zongbao's eyes has become more and more. I'm afraid that his cultivation has improved greatly. That's probably why he said so much today. What does a cultivator look like without lust? An immortal? Xiaohua suddenly thought of Ling Yunwu, who had transformed into a sword, and the dead Yuan. They seemed very similar to Li Zongbao and Wuxia. Could it be that Li Zongbao will become an immortal with outstanding cultivation in the future? Thinking of this, Xiaohua smiled and whispered, "Senior brother Li, I encountered a strange thing in Sky Patrol City." "Oh, what's the matter?" Li Zongbao turned around. Although he was curious, his face was cold as he asked. "Take a look and see what this is," Xiaohua said and handed 2 storage bags to Li Zongbao. "Oh." Li Zongbao scanned with his divine thought and frowned. "Isn't this the corpse of a disciple of your Imperial Thunder sect? Why didn't you hand it over to the meeting hall? Brotherly, look at the other one," Xiaohua said with a smile. Li Zongbao opened the other one, and saw that it was a thunderbolt. He was even more puzzled. "This thunderbolt is so damaged. Where did you get it?" "Haha," Xiaohua laughed. "It turns out that senior brother Li also has things that you don't know. It's not like I don't have divine foresight. How could I know so much?" Li Zongbao replied with a smile. "I got this from the Sky Patrol tea house." Xiaohua didn't hide anything and told him about the Sky Patrol tea house. "Ah? There's such a place?" Xiaohua didn't transmit his voice, so Xiao Mao also heard it clearly. Both of them exclaimed, "Are you telling the truth?" Li Zongbao's face was gloomy as if he was extremely angry. "Of course." Xiaohua raised his hand and said, "If I didn't pay the spirit stones, how could they let me out?" And the Utopia faction and the Xuanyan school also had cultivators participating. "Humph, you shouldn't have taken out the spirit stones at that time," Li Zongbao said coldly. "Just kill them all. Who dares to say no?" Xiaohua smiled but didn't say anything. Li Zongbao suddenly realized something and looked at Xiaohua meaningfully. Xiaohua said again, "I'm no match for them. Moreover, I'm afraid that this kind of dirty thing has been going on for a long time. If you kill these people, there will be others. You can't kill them all. Even so, you can't make a deal with the corpses of my Utopia faction's disciples." Li Zongbao sneered. "At this time, I must investigate it personally and report it to the conference hall." "Good." Xiaohua saw that Li Zongbao was about to enter the trap. He clapped his hands and said, "However, before you show off your invincible power, can you help me take a look at this thunderbolt?" "Why would I want to take a look at your broken thunderbolt?" Li Zongbao said indifferently. "This belongs to your Imperial Thunder sect. How would I know?" Can you not always say that it's broken?" Xiaohua said shamelessly. "I exchanged it with a lot of spirit stones. I still want to use it." "Stop dreaming." Li Zongbao snorted coldly. "This thing is only used for war achievements. It's completely useless." "No way," Xiaohua said with a wry smile. "This thunderbolt seems to be in good condition. Otherwise, why would I take out the spirit stones? To be honest, your Imperial Thunder Sect's thunderbolt is still inferior to the 7 Skills Sect's flowing cloud flying boat in terms of refining techniques and ease of use." Li Zongbao pointed out the crux of the matter. "However, the core of your thunderbolt is different from the flowing cloud flying boat. It uses spirit stones to activate a simple thunder pool. The power of the thunder pool propels the flying boat. In this aspect, it's better than the flowing cloud flying boat. It's faster and has greater carrying capacity. A simple thunder pool." Xiaohua was stunned. He reached out to take the storage bag from Li Zongbao. "Don't bother looking for it." Li Zongbao passed the 2 storage bags to Xiaohua. "That simple thunder pool is the most important secret of your Imperial Thunder Sect's thunderbolt. All the thunderboat's thunderpools have a self-destruct mechanism. Since this thunderboat is already useless, the thunderpool must be destroyed as well. Without the thunderpool, a thunderboat is nothing. Ha ha ha, Xiaohua laughed. It was not easy to make Li Zongbao say the word fart. This thunderboat is already useless. You can only use it to exchange for war achievements. Li Zongbao's face became cold again. He said, also, even if there is a thunder pool, it can only be used by people with thunder attribute physique. Oh, I forgot. Your phoenix celestial body seems to be able to control heavenly lightning. I'm afraid it can also drive this thunderboat. However, a phoenix celestial body of more than 400 zhang. Can this thunderboat hold anyone else? All right. Xiaohua shrugged. He took the storage bag and immersed his divine sense into the thunderboat. He said, it's good that senior brother knows. Don't hurt this little brother too much. That's not a small amount of spirit stones. Hee, the corner of Li Zongbao's mouth could not help but reveal a trace of smile. When Xiaohua immersed his divine sense into the thunderboat, he discovered that the entire thunderboat had an array that blocked divine sense. Xiaohua was unable to see the interior of the thunderboat. Forget it. When I have time, I will use my Dharma eyes to take a look. Xiaohua was somewhat disappointed. He kept the storage bag and looked at Li Zongbao. He said, little brother, how about repairing it? You want to repair it? Li Zongbao rolled his eyes at him and said, let's not talk about whether you know how to refine equipment. Even if you know how to refine equipment, do you have the Thunder Roll Stone to refine the Thunder Pool? Do you have the Jade Scroll to refine the Thunderboat? Forget it. You better exchange this Thunderboat for war achievements. Just say that this little brother and you found it together. The corpses of those Imperial Thunder Sect disciples should also be handed over. All right. Xiaohua nodded slightly. At this time, outside the flowing cloud flying ship that Li Zongbao had rented for 99 years, it seemed to be already night. Strong gales mixed with palm-sized snowflakes and thumb-sized ice particles hit the light barrier. The light constantly flickered, and the moonlight could not be seen. However, the surrounding dark white snow flickered faintly, illuminating the path in front of the three people. It seemed to be both dark and bright. This rarely seen snowy rain lasted for dozens of days. It was intermittent and continuous. On this day, endless red clouds flickered in the sky. Rumble. The sound of thunder rippled in the sky. The entire world was brightened and darkened by lightning. Li Zongbao, who was standing with his hands by his side, suddenly opened his eyes and roared angrily. Don't you dare hurt my Dao sect disciples! His figure immediately stood up and threw himself in front of the flying ship. Xiao Mao, you take control of the flying ship. Big brother will also go and take a look. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over. He clapped his hand and took the Yi-Yang fan in his hand. His figure also flew up. Yes. Xiao Mao's heart was itching, but he still controlled the flying ship and flew behind the two people. A few miles ahead of the flying boat, there were two groups of enemies. One group consisted of more than 10 Daoist sect disciples who were a mix of foundation establishment and chi refinement cultivators, while the other group consisted of more than 20 bright sword sect disciples. Nearly 40 people were fighting together, and it was obvious that the cultivators were at a disadvantage. At this time, Xiaohua did not pay much attention to this kind of fight between sword sect and cultivator. If it was a normal day, he would only let Xiao Mao come out, and he would sit leisurely on the flowing cloud flying ship. However, he had to come out personally. This was because half of the Dao sect disciples were from the Utmost Happiness faction, and the other half were from the Imperial Thunder sect. Chapter 2487. Li Zongbao shouted, "Don't hurt my Taoist sect's disciples," and rushed into the battle. Before he arrived, the disciples of the Utopia faction shouted, "Uncle Li is here. We are saved." The morale of the disciples of the Utopia faction was greatly boosted. Even the disciples of the Imperial Thunder faction were overjoyed. The yellow talismans and magic weapons in their hands shone brightly. Since he was facing more than 10 swordsmen, Li Zongbao waved his celestial piercing whip again. Almost 20 whip shadows were displayed accurately. They flashed and whistled in the snowy sky, completely messing up the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The ice particles and snowflakes within a radius of several hundred feet were stirred up and sent flying. This power was actually much stronger than before he returned to the Sky Patrol City. Xiao Huafei, who was behind him, saw the layers of whip shadows. The magic power on each of the whip shadows was condensed. As the runes on them circulated, they absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in a frenzy. Xiao Huafei narrowed his eyes slightly. Although he had obtained an opportunity in the past 5 years, and his magic power had greatly improved, Li Zongbao seemed to be improving all the time. Now that he had reached the peak of the foundation establishment stage, Li Zongbao was not far behind. Attack! Seeing Li Zongbao's might, the 20 or so sword cultivators were shocked. They all abandoned their opponents and glanced at each other. Sword energy circulated within their bodies, and the flying swords in their hands went to meet Li Zongbao's immortal piercing whip. The flying swords were either dotted with stars, falling rain, blooming flowers, or lush green bamboos. All of them transformed. Rumble! The 20 whip shadows hit the celestial piercing whip almost at the same time. The spiritual chi exploded, and the flying sword screamed. The huge airwave even sent everyone flying. In the airwave, several flying swords screamed and fell diagonally. They were defeated in one hit, and could no longer fight. Li Zongbao, who was resisting the 20 swordsmen alone, was also suddenly sent flying. The Taoist robe on the arm that held the celestial piercing whip was completely gone. Pieces of the robe turned into butterflies and flew into the sky. Soon after, they were swept into the night sky. Looking at Li Zongbao's bare arms, a faint brilliance flashed. It was a protective restriction. Hiss! The true essence in Li Zongbao's entire body was in disarray, almost out of control. As he did his utmost to operate his heart technique to collect his true essence, he was still somewhat regretful. Compared to Xiaohua, I'm still lacking by quite a bit. As it turned out, Li Zongbao had gone head-on against more than 20 drawn swordsmen, and actually, he wanted to compete with Xiaohua. If Xiaohua knew what Li Zongbao was thinking, wouldn't he be so cocky? Seniorly. Xiaohua scanned Li Zongbao with his divine sense, and saw that his face was pale gold, and there were even traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. He was a little shocked, as he didn't know why Li Zongbao was so reckless today. He hurriedly shouted, "Senior brother, don't panic. Little brother will help you." Just as Xiaohua shouted, the disciples of the Utmost Happiness faction and the Imperial Thunder faction, who were slower than the Sword Cultivator, once again activated their magic weapons and attacked the defeated Sword Cultivator. They wanted to take advantage of the situation and beat the Sword Cultivator while he was down. Nothing. Li Zongbao took a deep breath and suppressed his true core strength. He looked at the yang leaf fan in Xiaohua's hand and frowned. Obviously, he didn't think highly of this so-called magic weapon. You and I each take 10. Let's see who can finish killing them first. Oh. Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and was about to speak when he saw Li Zongbao's figure spread out again. The holy whip in his hand stretched out slightly, and with a whoosh, it rushed toward the 2 sword cultivators closest to him like a yellow dragon. What is Li Zongbao doing? Xiaohua was even more puzzled. This was a little different from the previous Li Zongbao. However, Xiaohua waved the yang leaf fan as well, causing a flaming dragon to sweep up and charge towards the 2 sword cultivators that were attacking the disciples of the Imperial Lightning sect. He said in high spirits, "It's as you said, killing people without blinking an eye." The disciples of the Imperial Thunder faction and the Utmost Happiness faction were fighting fiercely, so maybe they didn't hear it. However, Xiao Mao, who was driving the flowing cloud-flying boat in the distance, heard it clearly. He had goosebumps all over his body. Damn it, Big Brother is a poet. These 2 sentences really rhymed. Although Xiaohua's yang leaf fan was only a magic weapon, that fire dragon was not inferior to the holy whip in the slightest. In this snowy region where the fire attribute spiritual chi of heaven and earth was not abundant, that fire dragon flew to the 2 sword cultivators, and had already absorbed a lot of spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It expanded to several feet in size and wrapped around the 2 sword cultivators in an instant. Buzz. The 2 sword cultivators were somewhat caught off guard. and hurriedly withdrew their flying swords. They first protected their own bodies and then tried to counterattack. However, that fire dragon was far more intense than they thought. The tiny flames were like small tentacles that completely covered the sword light. With a sizzling sound, it was as if cold water was poured into hot oil. All of the sword light was eroded by the fire. The two sword cultivators hurriedly urged their sword origins to resist the fire with all their might. Xiaohua stretched out his hand and took out a magic staff that was as thick as a bull's mouth. His figure swept through the air, and he didn't pay attention to the two sword cultivators at all. He raised his head and smashed the third sword cultivator. This person, isn't he too fierce? The third sword cultivator's sword light was somewhat strange. It was like a huge mountain. When the huge sword danced, the sword light smashed down like a mountain. The heavy sword light also carried the sharpness of the sword light. He also had the same thought as all the sword cultivators who had fought with Xiaohua. At the same time, he also sneered in his heart like all the sword cultivators who had fought with Xiaohua. He unsheathed his huge sword, and the mountain mixed with the sharpness rushed over. Rumble! A loud sound rang out. This loud sound was even more shocking than the sound of Li Zongbao fighting against the 20 sword cultivators before. And this sword cultivator also ended up together with all the sword cultivators who had fought with Xiaohua. That seemingly majestic mountain was smashed apart by Xiaohua's magic staff. That snow-white sword light collapsed like an avalanche. Soon after, it was like a myriad of dandelions that spread their wings and escaped far away. That huge sword was actually shattered by Xiaohua's magic staff. There was no most fierce, only more fierce. This sword cultivator's huge sword was shattered and his own primordial spirit was also injured. His sword origin stagnated and fell from the sky. That clever thunder-controlling sect disciple swung his hand and shot out more than 10 lightning talismans, trapping this injured sword cultivator. That disciple even rubbed his body and rushed forward. A black lightning seal flickered as lightning threads rushed towards the sword cultivator's chest. Xiaohua was delighted in his heart. His figure flashed and he grew more than 1 zhang tall. His left hand grabbed and formed a lightning-attracting technique. Once again he drew a line in the air. Kacha! Several thick lightning lights appeared out of thin air. They flickered with a sinister appearance and hit the 4 sword cultivators who had drawn their swords within several zhang in front of Xiaohua. This lightning light was really too fast. The sword cultivators who had drawn their swords didn't have time to defend. 2 of them were struck in the forehead and immediately fell from the sky with a blood-curdling scream. The other 2 hastily dodged in panic and barely avoided their vital points. That lightning light hit their backs. However, how could these 2 sword cultivators withstand Xiaohua's heavenly lightning? That lightning light not only tore apart the defense on their backs, it also deeply penetrated their bodies. As their flesh was torn open, countless purple lightning lights also spread all over their bodies. The 2 sword cultivators clenched their teeth as if they wanted to resist this unbearable pain. They even tried their best to urge their sword origin to resist the sword light that was corroding their sword origin. However, they only saw a black shadow sweep past them. Another black magic staff flashed past, and the magic staff accurately hit the top of their heads. As the corpses of the 2 sword cultivators fell to the ground, the fire dragon that Xiaohua had driven with his sunleaf fan earlier also destroyed the defensive sword lights of the 2 sword cultivators. That powerful magic power drove the scorching flames to attack the corpses of the 2 sword cultivators. The sword energy of the 2 sword cultivators only lasted for a few breaths of time before their corpses were completely burned. Although their corpses didn't turn into charcoal, they lost their balance and fell to the ground. They also suffered the same fate as the last 2 sword cultivators. The disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect were in an uproar. The disciples of the Utmost Happiness faction also cried out in surprise. Xiaohua killing these 5 sword cultivators was really too beautiful. Not to mention how profound Xiaohua's magic power was and how meticulous his control of the magic weapon was. Just the way he flew over like moving clouds and flowing water without stopping to rest. The corpses of the 5 sword cultivators fell from the sky at practically the same time. Moreover, the spells he used were all different. This simply surpassed Li Zongbao, who was known as the #1 person below the Golden Core stage. Because at this moment, although Li Zongbao also effortlessly killed 4 sword cultivators with his immortal piercing whip, not only was he 1 sword cultivator inferior to Xiaohua in terms of numbers, his methods were also lacking. The 4 sword cultivators all used the same move, the immortal piercing whip swinging down. Countless whip shadows fell down with earth-shattering momentum, directly knocking away the sword cultivators' flying swords and smashing the sword cultivators' corpses. Besides this move, there was nothing else. Huff huff. After Xiaohua finished killing the 5th sword cultivator, he immediately panted. He flipped his hand and threw a medicinal pill into his mouth. He pointed with his finger and said, "Junior brothers, the rest is up to you. I've already done my best." Yes. The spirits of many Imperial Thunder Sect disciples were greatly roused. With a senior brother who could compare to Li Zongbao by their side, they naturally couldn't show weakness. Each of them was much more ferocious than before. Under the surge of their magic power, they reversed their previous decline in one fell swoop, and suppressed the sword cultivators' attacks. Killing all of the sword cultivators was only a matter of time. Huff huff. Xiaohua looked on proudly. He pretended to be pale, and his figure once again slowly flew back. Over there, Xiao Mao had already put away the flowing cloud flying ship. He took out his Dharma treasure and hovered in midair. Dai Li Zongbao was different from Xiaohua. His hands were extremely ruthless. After killing 4 sword cultivators, he still wasn't willing to stop. As the shadows of his whip danced, several sword cultivators lost their lives one after another. And with the harvest of one life after another, Li Zongbao's magic power became increasingly smooth. The immortal piercing whip also whistled happily. Even in Li Zongbao's already faint eyes, there was a hint of human radiance. Senior brother Li is indeed powerful. Xiao Mao also saw the difference, and said very enviously, "Junior brother's master once said that using killing to stop killing is the highest Tao, and using killing to cultivate is the Tao of cultivation." Junior brother has always been unable to attain the Samadhi realm, but senior brother Li seems to have already mastered this Tao. Bullshit. Xiaohua originally wanted to say bullshit, but when he remembered that it was Xiao Mao's master who said it, he hurriedly covered it up. You don't want to walk the great Tao that leads to the heavens, but instead choose to walk the path of bloodthirst? Senior brother Li, isn't this a bit inappropriate? Chapter 2488. Xiao Mao shook his head slightly. I don't think it's inappropriate. Big brother, don't you see? This holy piercing whip is the Utopia faction's killing weapon. Senior brother Li can only skillfully activate the holy piercing whip now, but he hasn't really integrated with the holy piercing whip yet. If he reaches that step one day, I'm afraid he won't be far from the great Tao. Is that so? Xiaohua was a little confused, but then he smiled bitterly. The Utopia faction has been around for so many years. They naturally have nascent soul stage elders and spirit severing stage elders. Li Zongbao is their pride. How can they destroy their own wall? Using killing to refine one's nature is also a great Tao from ancient times. There must be a great reason behind it. Kill, Xiaohua was thinking, but he heard Li Zongbao's voice like spring thunder. With a roar, the holy piercing whip suddenly expanded. It didn't draw out any whip shadows. The runes on the holy piercing whip swelled, and it lashed out at the 10th swordsman. Before the holy piercing whip could hit that cultivator, a few feet away, his whole body flashed with brilliance, and the protective sword chi quickly dissipated. That swordsman didn't turn his flying sword to attack Li Zongbao, and the holy piercing whip firmly knocked him into the air. And from beginning to end, the holy piercing whip didn't touch that swordsman at all. Good. The disciples of the Utopia faction shouted loudly. Li Zongbao's move had suppressed Xiaohua in an instant. In the hearts of the disciples of the Utopia faction, Li Zongbao was still the pride of the Utopia faction. He wasn't someone Xiaohua of the Imperial Thunder sect of the country of she could compare to. These nearly 20 bright sword swordsmen didn't have high ranks. Their bright sword 1st grade to bright sword 4th grade weren't considered tough bones. After Xiaohua and Li Zongbao jointly killed 15 of them, The remaining few sword cultivators had long been flustered. They were surrounded by more than 10 cultivators. After another 2 were killed, the remaining 2 swordsmen risked their injuries and tried to break out of the encirclement by stepping on their flying swords. However, even though their idea was good, they were surrounded by more than 10 cultivators after all. How could it be so easy to escape? With a single glance, Xiaohua knew that the 2 of them were most likely doomed. However, right at this moment, Li Zongbao tossed the immortal piercing whip into the air once more. With a buzzing sound, the immortal piercing whip transformed into a rainbow and struck down one of the swordsmen. The sword light surrounding the swordsman was completely shattered, and the magic tools of the 2 cultivators immediately took the life of the swordsman. As for the last sword cultivator, he was even worse off. His eyes trembled as he looked at the majestic immortal piercing whip. He was struck by the magical artifacts of more than 10 cultivators and died. Seeing Li Zongbao's state of mind, Xiaohua couldn't help but shake his head. Greetings, senior brother. The dozen or so cultivators were divided into 2 groups. About 6 or 7 disciples from the Imperial Thunder sect rushed over and bowed. Thank you, senior brother, for saving our lives. May I know which Thunder Palace you are from? Although they saw that Xiaohua's cultivation hadn't even reached the middle stage of foundation establishment, who still dared to call him junior brother. Hehe, this Xiao is a disciple of the Thunder Palace's myriad Thunder Valley. My name is Xiaohua. Xiaohua smiled and cupped his hands in return. Oh, so it's the Thunder Palace's senior brother Xiao. When those disciples heard that Xiaohua wasn't a disciple of the Heavenly Thunder Palace, they were even more delighted. One by one, they rushed to announce their names, seemingly wanting to befriend him. Damn it, this job really isn't something an ordinary person can do. Xiaohua listened to each name and nodded with a smile on his face. However, his brain, which could remember jade slips and cultivation methods in the blink of an eye, was unable to remember these strange names. Nonsense, if it was Dui Qiming and Dui Lingba, they both had the same Dui. Only the last 2 words were different. Some even only had a single word difference. Even Qian Mo had 2 different words. This basically didn't have any meaning. How could Xiaohua remember it? Perhaps only that guy Cui Hongshan has this kind of amazing ability. Xiaohua muttered in his heart. This ability, this young master can't catch up to him in this lifetime. When everyone had announced their names, everyone looked at Xiaohua with a smile, seemingly somewhat expectant. Xiaohua blinked his eyes. How strange, he was somewhat puzzled. Seeing Xiaohua's bewilderment, a quick-witted disciple said in a low voice, Senior brother Xiao, these are close to 20 bright sword swordsmen. They're storage pouches. Oh, I understand. Xiaohua, who was confused by the numerous names, suddenly came to his senses. He pointed his finger and said, You. Oh, Kuan Peng, the disciple who spoke said with a smile. Senior brother Xiao, what instructions do you have? I'll have to trouble junior brother Kuan Peng to bring those storage pouches over. Xiaohua instructed. Bring them all over. Kuan Peng was a little hesitant. He whispered again. Senior brother Xiao only killed 5 swordsmen. We will only take the storage pouches of those 5 swordsmen. The rest will be distributed by the cultivators of the Utopia faction. If I tell you to go, then go. Xiaohua's tone was very unyielding, without a doubt. Good boy. Those are the cultivators of the Utopia faction. That's Li Zongbao. Kuan Peng almost stuck out his tongue. However, since Xiaohua had instructed, Kuan Peng obediently flew down. First, he took the storage pouches of the 5 swordsmen killed by Xiaohua. Then he looked at the cultivators of the Utopia faction. Originally, a disciple flew out, but seeing that the Imperial Thunder faction's disciple had gone first, that disciple obediently stopped in mid-air. Thus, Kuan Peng didn't hold back. He took all the storage pouches in his hand and flew in front of Xiaohua. Go, give these storage pouches to that Utopia faction's disciple. Split them in half in front of him. Xiaohua said casually. This can be done. Kuan Peng's face was full of joy, and the other cultivators of the Imperial Thunder faction were overjoyed. They could calculate the difference in the number of people even with their heels. Sure enough, Kuan Peng took the storage pouches and divided the things in half a meal's time. The Utopia faction's disciple was obviously surprised, but when he turned his head and said a few words, his face was even more stunned. He took the storage pouches handed over by Kuan Peng with a wry smile. The 10 swordsmen were killed by Li Zongbao. Li Zongbao himself didn't have any objections, so what could he say? Besides, Li Zongbao had never divided things with them. They each got a storage pouch of the swordsman. What else was there to be unhappy about? It was just that they were not used to it. It was probably the first time that they compromised with the disciples of the Imperial Thunder faction, which was not considered a first-class cultivation faction. Kuan Peng happily took the storage pouches and handed them to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua couldn't compare to Li Zongbao, so he used his divine thought to check if there was anything special. Then he smiled and said, "You can divide it by yourself. I don't want it." Really? Kuan Peng and the others were even more surprised. This was really once again beyond their expectations. "Senior Xiao, these are the cultivators you killed. If you don't take some, our faces will be red. Forget it, take one more." Xiao Hua pointed to Xiao Mao next to him. "Leave one for the junior of the Xuanyan school." Okay. Kuan Peng knew that Xiao Mao came with Li Zongbao and Xiao Hua, so he didn't dare to neglect it. After distributing it nimbly, he asked, "Senior Xiao, where are you going?" "Oh, I and the others are going at this point." Xiao Hua couldn't help laughing. Until now, he still didn't know where Li Zongbao was taking him. "I'm going to the Huang country with Senior Li Zongbao." Xiao Hua covered it up. "So it's like this." Kuan Peng blinked his eyes and whispered, "Senior Xiao, we are here to ask for help. If you have time, please go to the 7 Extremes Mountains." "Oh, why?" Xiao Hua was surprised. "My Imperial Thunder sect was sent to the 7 Extremes Mountains to attack the sword cultivators guarding there. However, before we reached the 7 Extremes Mountains, we encountered a lot of sword cultivators and beast cultivators. Among the sword cultivators, there was an illusory swordsman, which was quite powerful. My Imperial Thunder sect suffered heavy losses. Therefore, we were sent back to ask for help from the conference hall of the Sky Patrol City, and to see if there are any disciples of my Imperial Thunder sect or disciples of other sects nearby to ask for help." As he spoke, Kuan Peng looked at the Utopia faction and whispered, "Senior Li Zongbao of the Utopia faction is famous. If he can take the disciples there, it will be a great help." Xiao Hua frowned slightly and asked puzzledly, "Isn't Junior Kuan with the disciples of the Utopia faction? What are they doing?" Kuan Peng was embarrassed. He looked at the other disciples next to him and smiled apologetically. "We are the last group of disciples to go to the 7 Extremes Mountains. Heh, because we left late, we didn't encounter the ambush. Instead, we met a junior who escaped from the ambush. Therefore, we didn't go to the 7 Extremes Mountains and flew out to ask for help first. However, we encountered sword cultivators nearby. When we retreated, we also encountered the disciples of the Utopia faction who were being chased by swordsmen. In fact, we didn't know them at all." "Oh, I see." Xiao Hua nodded. At this time, Li Zongbao also flew out from the crowd. "Greetings, Senior Li Zongbao." Kuan Peng and the others didn't dare to neglect and hurried forward to greet him. "Okay." Li Zongbao casually made an obeisance and said to Xiao Hua, "Junior Xiao, have you finished your business? My disciples of the Utopia faction were ambushed by sword cultivators in the Flowing Ice Valley. Can you go to the Flowing Ice Valley with me now?" This Xiao Hua hesitated. He was in the same team as Li Zongbao, so he had to listen to Li Zongbao's orders. However, the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect were also in trouble. "I'll let Senior Li Zongbao know." Kuan Peng was very clever. When he saw that even Li Zongbao wanted to invite Xiao Hua, he hurriedly made an obeisance and said, "My disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect were also ambushed by sword cultivators in the 7 Extremes Ridge. My Senior Xiao, oh I see." Li Zongbao nodded slightly and said, "In this case, Junior Xiao, if you want to go to the 7 Extremes Ridge, take Xiao Mao with you now. Time is tight. I also have to go to the Flowing Ice Valley. When the 2 battles are over, we'll meet again." "Okay, thank you for your understanding, Senior Li." Xiao Hua was relieved. He looked at Xiao Mao and said, Let me drive the flowing cloud-flying boat and follow Senior Li. My flying speed is fast, so I don't need it. Okay. Li Zongbao glanced at Xiao Mao and nodded. Then Xiao Mao will follow me. Immediately, Li Zongbao didn't delay. He took out a jade slip and gave it to Xiao Hua. He asked Xiao Mao to release the flying boat and flew away with Xiao Mao. The disciples of the Utopia faction were still flying in the direction of the Sky Patrol City. Chapter 2489. Seeing this, Xiao Hua hurriedly ordered Kuan Peng and the others. You all follow the Utopia faction disciples. It's always good to have more people. I'll go to the 7 Extremes Mountains myself. Senior brother Xiao, be careful. Kuan Peng knew what Xiao Hua said was reasonable. He recorded the approximate location of the 7 Extremes Mountains in a jade slip and gave it to Xiao Hua. Then he led 7 disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect to chase after the Utopia faction disciples. Xiao Hua knew the situation was urgent. He didn't dare to be negligent. He immersed his divine thought into the jade slip and activated the Imperial Thunder travel. Thunder roared around him as he flew into the distance. After flying for several days, he encountered several groups of sword cultivators. However, Xiao Hua only whistled past without paying them any attention. Those sword cultivators were also greatly shocked. A few of the more experienced ones, upon seeing Xiao Hua's fleeting figure and the swaying thunder in the air, had long since changed their expressions. Some even shrunk their necks and hurriedly flew to other places, no longer daring to approach the direction Xiao Hua was heading. Today, at noon, several towering mountain peaks could be seen rising up from the snowy lands. If these mountain peaks were placed anywhere else in the country of Xi, they would be considered normal. However, after being used to the snowy lands of the highlands, it was natural for them to be surprised by the sight of these mountains. Oh, is this the 7 Extremes Mountains? Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He was about to take out the jade slip. At this moment, a divine thought swept past behind him. Who is it? Xiao Hua was startled. His flying speed immediately slowed down, and his divine sense also swept over. However, when his divine sense crossed 5 kilometers, he suddenly realized something and immediately stopped. He clapped his hand and took out the Yang Leaf fan. Magic power surged from his body, and he took out a vigilant stance. As for that divine sense, it swept past Xiao Hua and immediately locked onto him. After half a meal, a cultivator in the middle stage of the Golden Core realm hurried over from a distance. Xiao Hua also knew this cultivator. Isn't this martial uncle Kuan Shui of the Earth Thunder Palace? Xiao Hua's divine thought swept over and recognized Kuan Shui. He immediately withdrew his divine thought and waited respectfully in the air. Kuan Shui had left a good impression on Xiao Hua when he was at the Imperial Thunder sect's encampment in the Sky Patrol City. Xiao Hua's attitude was also humble. Xiao Hua, why are you here? Kuan Shui flew closer and asked in surprise. Didn't you go back to Sky Thunder Peak with Cui Hongshan and the others? I'll let Martial Uncle Kuan know that I'm now under the command of Senior Martial Brother Li Zongbao. I'm in the same team as Senior Martial Brother Li. Oh, Li Zongbao? Kuan Shui was surprised. Isn't he a disciple of the Utopia faction? Yes, Li Zongbao has used the special order of the meeting hall to transfer this junior to serve under him. Xiao Hua cut the long story short and asked again. Junior just killed those who followed Senior Martial Brother Li Zongbao to the side, but I met Kuan Peng of the Earth Thunder Palace. He said that the disciples who went to the 7 Extremes Mountains were ambushed by Huan Nation's swordsmen, so Junior came alone to help. When Marshal Kuan saw this, he frowned and scolded. Nonsense! You are only at the middle foundation establishment stage. How can you come to the 7 Extremes Ridge as you please? If you follow Li Zongbao, you might feel wronged, but at least your life is guaranteed. You are the heroes of the Imperial Thunder sect. When you return to the Sky Thunder Peak, you will be praised by the sect leader. You can't be too careless. Yes, Junior was worried about my fellow apprentices at that time, so I didn't think too much. Xiao Hua felt warm in his heart and smiled apologetically. Where is Li Zongbao? Marshal Kuan asked curiously. You are here, why didn't he come? If he comes, the Imperial Thunder sect will have another good helper. Uncle Kuan, the Utopia faction was also ambushed by swordsmen. Senior martial brother Li Zongbao was busy rescuing their disciples. Xiaohua smiled apologetically. By the way, did Uncle Kuan also receive Kuan Peng's call for help? Haha, I didn't meet Kuan Peng. It was other disciples. Marshal Kuan looked ahead and asked curiously, Xiaohua, didn't you go to the 7 Extremes Mountains? Why are you here? Xiaohua was speechless. He clapped his hands, took out a jade slip and handed it to Marshal Kuan. He smiled apologetically and said, Junior took Kuan Peng's jade slip and flew here. I'm afraid it flew wrong? Oh. Marshal Kuan took the jade slip and looked at it. He smiled and said, You are not wrong. Kuan Peng remembered it wrongly. He has no sense of direction. If you listen to him, you will still have to fly back to Sky Patrol City. Yes, I understand. Xiaohua was relieved when he heard that he didn't fly wrong. Let's go. I am going to the 7 Extremes Mountains to get out of trouble. Follow me. Marshal Kuan smiled and said. However, you have to stay close to me. Don't be more than 100 feet away, or else I am afraid I can't take care of you. Yes, I understand. Xiaohua replied happily. It was rare for him to meet such a warm-hearted senior. Marshal Kuan scanned the area with his divine thought and pointed with his finger. He said, In front of us is the Prison Dragon Ridge, not the 7 Extremes Mountains. However, it is not far from the Prison Dragon Ridge. Kuan Peng just pointed the way a little off. Yes, senior, please lead the way. I will follow you, Xiaohua said respectfully. All right, follow this old man. Marshal Kuan waved his sleeves and took the lead to fly towards the mountain peaks that towered into the sky. Xiaohua followed behind Marshal Kuan with a smile on his face. Oh Xiaohua, how are Dui Qiming and Cui Hongshan? I just got the news that day and thought, cough cough, there are some things that are not appropriate for me to say. Marshal Kuan asked with a smile. I'll let Marshal Uncle Kuan know, Xiaohua honestly reported. Junior sister Dui and junior brother Cui have already reconciled. After all, the two of them have experienced life and death together, and they've already seen through many things. Since the two of them can be together, some trivial things don't matter. That's good. Marshal Kuan's flying speed was still very fast, more than 20% faster than an ordinary gold core practitioner. However, he was still relaxed as he asked, In addition, this is just the beginning. The words of the 3 disciples of the Earth Thunder Palace that day were only seen by ordinary people. The matter of Dui Qiming and Tu Hong will definitely spread throughout the Dawn Rain continent after the sword battle. Yes, even the entire Imperial Thunder sect knows about it now. They will have to face many things in the future. Alas, yes. Xiaohua sighed slightly. When he gave the male and female Thunder Beast cores to the two of them in the pill refining cave, wasn't this also his intention? Especially, to let Cui Hongshan and Dui Qiming dual cultivate at that time. This could also be considered a big gift from Xiaohua to Cui Hongshan. If not for this, when they returned to Sky Thunder Peak, how could the myriad Thunder Valley, which had always been weak, face those meaningless rumors and slanders? 2 middle stage foundation establishment cultivators. Perhaps it could make others stop gossiping. Seeing that Xiaohua was also flying and answering him at the same time, and not much slower than him, Marshal Kuan's face showed a surprised expression. At the same time, he activated his spiritual power, and secretly increased his flying speed. He seemed to want to see if Xiaohua could catch up with him. At this time, Xiaohua was also somewhat worried. He couldn't help but think about how eldest senior brother and master would treat this matter when they returned to the myriad Thunder Valley. Gradually, the two of them flew into the mountain ridge, their figures disappearing between several towering peaks. Rumble, there was a series of earth-shaking sounds. Countless spiritual energy of heaven and earth rushed out from Prison Dragon Ridge. Several hurricanes rushed into the air, sweeping away all the white snow between the mountains. Waves of energy also spread out to the surroundings of Prison Dragon Ridge. Just a few li away from Prison Dragon Ridge, the waves of energy swept through the air. A burst of brilliance flickered slightly and quickly disappeared. Marshal Uncle Kuan, what is the meaning of this? Inside Prison Dragon Ridge, in the middle of several towering mountains, Xiaohua fell on the bare ground and coldly asked Marshal Kuan, who had a happy expression on his face. "Ha at this time. What do you want to do for this old man? Are you stupid?" Marshal Kuan laughed maniacally. He slapped his hand and took out a palm-size, golden magic bottle from his storage bag. Under the stimulation of his magic power, a golden flame gradually appeared on the magic bottle. Xiaohua slowly climbed up from the ground and very calmly patted the dirt off his body. He stared at Marshal Kuan with narrowed eyes. Just now he followed Kuan Peng into Prison Dragon Ridge. When he just arrived at this open space, he saw Kuan Peng's magic power surging around his body, and his hands continuously forming seals. He thought that he was ambushed by some sword cultivator. Just when he released his divine sense to check the enemy's whereabouts, he felt 4 waves of magic power coming from all around the valley. The waves were like a net that intertwined in the air and instantly covered him from top to bottom. An unparalleled force pulled him down from the air and smashed him straight to the ground. Fortunately, Xiaohua's skin was rough and his flesh was thick. After smashing the rocks on the ground, he didn't suffer any injuries. It was just that his robe was dirty. He felt that in this inexplicable array, a huge force seemed to exist in the air, pressing down on him from top to bottom. His body felt as if it was solidified and filled with magma. It was difficult for him to move his hands and feet. Xiaohua hurriedly released his Buddhist sense. He first checked under his feet. When he saw that there were strong waves in the rocks, his heart couldn't help but thump. He knew that the earth escape technique was probably not easy to use. Then he looked at the left side of the valley. The entire valley was filled with strong waves. It should be the range of the array. Marshal Kuan's body was suffused with a faint brilliance that shielded the waves. Xiaohua's eyes narrowed and he said coldly, "This junior doesn't know when this junior offended Marshal Uncle. It actually made Marshal Uncle spend so much effort to lure this junior here. That Kuan Peng is probably Marshal Uncle Kuan's nephew, right?" Marshal Kuan didn't pay attention to him. He slowly urged his magic power. The fireball in his hand became bigger and bigger. The golden light also penetrated several zhang. Xiaohua knew that he couldn't get any information from Marshal Kuan. He coldly snorted. "Relying on this bullshit array, you want to trap this young master? Marshal Kuan, you're too imaginative." As he spoke, Xiaohua's magic power surged and gradually let out a thunderous sound. His figure flew up and rushed towards Marshal Kuan. At the same time, Xiaohua waved his hand and wanted to take out the magic wand. Chapter 2490. Who would have thought that just as Xiaohua rushed up a few feet, an incomparably huge force was born from the fluctuations, firmly suppressing him. It was as if a huge boulder was pressing down on his shoulder, smashing him to the ground again. And when he landed with a plop, the huge force reduced and returned to the same state as before. What surprised Xiaohua the most was not this. He waved his hand and took out the devil's staff from the space. However, the devil's staff that was previously like a wooden stick was now as heavy as a mountain. Almost as soon as it touched Xiaohua's finger, it immediately slipped from Xiaohua's hand and fell on the rock along with Xiaohua's body. Ha. Seeing Xiaohua's sorry state, Marshal Kuan could not help but laugh. "I heard that your lightning escape technique was successful, and you were born with divine strength. How about it? In this array, what use do you have?" Xiaohua's face was gloomy as he looked at the magic bottle in Marshal Kuan's hand. The golden flame gradually solidified, and a terrifying aura was emitted from the flame. Even a middle gold core stage cultivator had to store up power to activate it. Everyone knew how powerful this flame was. What kind of array is this? Why is it so strange? Xiaohua clapped his hand and took out the Yi-Yang fan. Within his meridians, there was very little true essence. Strangely, it was not restricted by this array. I'll let this good Marshal nephew of yours know." Marshal Kuan seemed to be in a good mood. While activating the magic bottle, he said leisurely, "Could it be that you haven't heard of the looting mountain sealing magic array?" "Sealing magic array?" Xiaohua heard the name and understood. He sneered. "Could it be that the earth attribute of the mountain is used to create a powerful restriction that imprisons the bodies of the people of the devil realm?" "Oh." Marshal Kuen's face flashed with a strange color. He said in disbelief, "You actually know about this array? You are really," as she said, dabbling in a wide range of things. "Your magic power is close to the late foundation establishment stage. In addition, your divine strength is comparable to a gold core stage cultivator." "Who?" Xiaohua's heart trembled as he asked. "Who? Why should this old man tell you?" Marshal Kuen sneered. "After you die, you can ask in the underworld." With that, Marshal Kuen waved his hand and the golden flame flew into the air. It suddenly lit up the entire valley. The spiritual energy in the valley was like a waterfall as it poured into the flame from all directions. Split. Marshal Kuen's body froze in midair. With a point of his finger, the flame split in the middle with a loud bang and turned into 6 different hexagons hanging in the air. It seemed to be compatible with the entire formation. The aura of the flame itself was terrifying, and when it was mixed with the aura of the array, the entire might press down on Xiaohua from all directions. How was this dealing with a mid-foundation establishment cultivator? Even if it was to kill a golden core cultivator, this formation was more than enough. Go. For the time being, Xiaohua didn't have a suitable magic treasure in his hands, so he could only wave the sun leaf fan. As the sun leaf fan danced, 6 fire dragons rushed towards the 6 flames. Seeing the huge fire dragons rushing out, Marshal Kuen didn't even blink. He even sneered. "Since you saw this old man use this kind of magic, don't you know that this old man is of the fire attribute? This kind of ordinary fire." Hee. Sure enough, when the 6 fire dragons rushed into the flame only swayed slightly and all the flames were sucked into it without any ripples. "It seems that you have already figured out this Xiaohua sighed. He clapped his hand and the sun leaf fan was stored in the space. Where is your phoenix dharma body?" Marshal Kuen stood there quietly, about 10 zhang away from Xiaohua. He asked with a smile. "This old man still wants to see how this innate true fire will turn your phoenix dharma body into a roasted chicken. Who is that person? You only need to tell this Xiao and this Xiao will immediately release his dharma body." Xiaohua estimated the distance between him and Marshal Kuen, and calmly replied. "Actually, there is no harm in telling you," Marshal Kuen laughed. "According to this old man's knowledge, it is absolutely impossible for you to escape from this 6-ding mountain ceiling magic array. However, this old man has always been careful. Until you die, I will never tell you." Then Marshal Kuen tilted his head again. "Don't tell me, you think you can escape from this array?" "Yes, this young master wants to let you know. You dared to scheme against this young master, and even talk to this young master for so long. This is definitely the greatest sorrow in your life. How can this old man's strength be guessed by you?" Xiaohua waved his hand and the wishful staff appeared in his hand. As he expected, the wishful staff was not restricted by the array at all. You are a bit strange." Marshal Kuen saw the wishful staff in Xiaohua's hand and sneered. "Isn't this old man talking to you to stall for time? Look at these 6 lanterns." While speaking, Marshal Kuen grasped his hand, and the 6 spells hit the flames. The flames suddenly transformed and 6 lampstands appeared in mid-air. Each lampstand emitted the same golden brilliance. As the brilliance sprinkled down, the lampstands drew a mysterious arc in mid-air and constantly rotated. At the same time, flames like lanterns flew out from the lampstands. The flames emitted a golden light. Although they absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, they did not expand. The hot temperature burned the void. Xiaohua felt the scorching fire. He wanted to release the Buddha relic and water bottle, but looking at the star-like flames and Marshal Kuen, who was more than 10 feet away from him, his heart moved again. He waved the wishful staff in his hand, protecting himself so that not even a drop of water could leak out. "Ha, why do you have the same idea as those devil bastards?" Kuen Shuai's body stood there steadily, as if he didn't dare to move too much. His fa surged and he laughed again. "If this Xiantian true fire can be sent flying by your demonic weapon, would it still be Xiantian true fire? You're really ignorant." Marshal Kuren's smile was full of mockery, but it was also a kind of stability and a feeling of relief. Who knew that when more than a dozen flames fell in front of Xiaohua, they were hit by Xiaohua's wishful staff? As if they were real things, Marshal Kuen's smile froze on his face. This is impossible, Marshal Kuen murmured. Yes, this is innate true fire. Whenever it comes into contact with a magic weapon, and other things, it will burn. There is absolutely no exception. Unless the opponent has special means to not let this innate true fire touch him. Although Marshal Kuen was very confused, a sinister smile appeared on his face. Under the urging of his magic power, the 6 candlesticks on the candlesticks scattered like flowers by a celestial maiden. This old man doesn't believe that you can remain untouched in the sea of fire. Xiaohua was secretly happy. This wishful staff is really famous. It can really hit these flames. However, there are still some problems. After all, there are still magic weapons in the wishful staff. This wishful staff is still stained with some small flames. Moreover, this 6-ding mountain ceiling magic array is the key. It's really too powerful. I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on for long. Xiaohua seemed to be waving the wishful staff very easily, but in fact only he knew that every time he waved it, the pressure on his body increased a little. It was as if in this big array, only by remaining still could this pressure be eliminated. However, Xiaohua had no other way. He could only try his best to wave the wishful staff. Although it was not as cool as before, under the magic of the heavenly staff technique, the flames were blocked a few feet away from Xiaohua, and could not get close to him. However, in the time it took to eat a meal, Xiaohua became more and more unable to hold on. The entire valley had been completely covered by the flames. Xiaohua's arms were also very tired. Since he started cultivating, he had never been so tired. Obviously, there were flaws in the heavenly staff technique. Occasionally, some flames passed through the wishful staff and hit Xiaohua's side. Xiaohua struggled to dodge, but when the flames fell to the ground, they immediately burned. There were too many flames passing through, and Xiaohua had no place to stand. He dodged and dodged, quite embarrassed. Fortunately, during this time, Kuan Shui did not cast any other spells. He only urged the innate true fire, as if he was not free to come and go in this battle. Seeing that the flames had spread under Xiaohua's feet, and there was no place for him to move, Kuan Shui laughed. This old man wants to see what is so special about your so-called hidden fire physique. Is that so? Xiaohua's arms really had no strength. His eyes narrowed slightly and he sneered. Then this young master will let you see with that. Xiaohua put away the wishful staff, and let the flames fall from the sky. When the flames were close to his body, his hand pinched the fire escape technique, and his figure disappeared in a flash. This seeing Xiaohua disappear in the innate true fire, Kuan Shui's eyes almost fell out. How is this possible? This is the innate true fire. Even if, at this moment, there was a fluctuation of spiritual power in the flames that had already spread over his feet. Xiaohua's figure appeared in the flames, and the wishful staff was waved again, strangely hitting Kuan Shui's leg. 5 elements escape technique? This is impossible. Kuan Shui knew that the 5 elements escape technique was known to be able to escape in the 5 elements. It should be able to escape in the flames, but at that time, it was an ordinary flame, an innate true fire. Who would dare to escape in it? Xiaohua waved the wishful staff, and there was only a trace of strength left in his arm. He had endured for so long, waiting for the true fire to fill the valley. Only then would he have the opportunity to use the fire escape technique to rush into the air, and have the opportunity to get close to Kuan Shui. Although when he was escaping within the primordial fire just now, not only was his escape technique extremely slow, it was also affected by the formation. Moreover, the light protecting his body was also on the verge of collapse, and could be shattered by the special characteristics of the primordial fire at any time. But after all, he still succeeded. This last bit of strength was most likely the last straw for him to escape. Seeing that Kuan Shui was caught off guard and Xiaohua hit Kuan Shui's leg with the wishful staff, Xiaohua could not help but be overjoyed. Chapter 2491. However, when the wishful steel staff fell on Marshal Kuen's legs, the brilliance on Marshal Kuen's legs flickered, and the brilliance shattered like a firefly. Marshal Kuen's figure standing there was actually a phantom. Immediately afterward, Marshal Kuen's laughter sounded in the distance. Haha. Sure enough, it's Xiaohua. Sure enough, you're a disciple of the 10,000 Thunder Valley. This old man still underestimated you. Xiaohua's face was extremely ugly. Just as he was about to use the wind escape technique to chase after Marshal Kuen, his other hand waved, and he was about to use the soaring dragon shears that he didn't dare to take out. Rumble. A huge sound rang around Xiaohua. Xiaohua only felt that the scene around him was like floating clouds. Countless flying feather beasts, swimming fish monsters, and monsters emerged from all directions and rushed toward Xiaohua. Xiaohua was shocked. His divine sense swept over, and immediately understood that he had fallen into Marshal Kuen's trap. The space around him was rapidly shrinking. In the middle of the valley, a magic treasure that was flat like a spindle appeared in the air above the array. There were strange runes flowing around it. This magic treasure was dozens of feet in size, and it occupied half of the sky above the array. But the strangest thing was that this spindle-like magic treasure was divided into two parts. In the middle, there was a saw-like gap. The saw-like gap flickered with light, and was obviously extremely sharp. Xiaohua was naturally on one of them, and the other was actually Marshal Kuen. Marshal Kuen had set up such a trap, and under his deliberate planning, he actually wanted to cover himself and Xiaohua together in this magic treasure. After the magic treasure shrank to the size of several feet, it stopped shrinking. Then the whole magic treasure emitted a strange blue brilliance. In this brilliance, countless runes swayed. As the brilliance overflowed, the flying feather beasts and other strange patterns that Xiaohua saw moved as if they were alive. Buzz! When all the flying feather beasts circled around the magic treasure, the whole magic treasure began to shake. Damn it! Xiaohua held the wishful steel staff in his hand, and looked at the changing scenery in the sky with puzzlement. When the magic treasure shook, the space where he was collapsed as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. A strange mountain range shaped like a sawtooth appeared out of thin air like a natural moat, and pressed toward Xiaohua. The sawtooth flashed with a cold light, and was incomparably sharp. A destructive aura emanated from the sawtooth. Not good. Xiaohua was really frightened. He had no doubt that as long as the giant thorn pierced him, even his tempered body would absolutely not be able to resist. He would definitely be pierced into meat paste. Marshal Kuren's plan was to push Xiaohua into the dead. Just as he was trying his best to swing the staff, a powerful suction force was born from the magic weapon. The true essence in Xiaohua's body flowed rapidly, and all the magical power rushed out of his body uncontrollably. It was thrown toward the sky. Earth-splitting earth split. As all of Xiaohua's dermic powers rushed out, the collapse in the space Xiaohua was in immediately stopped. Instead, it strangely retreated and rapidly returned to its original state. The destructive sawtooth rapidly retreated, and it was much faster than when it appeared just now. Ah! Just when Xiaohua was puzzled, Marshal Kuen's scream came from the sky. This is impossible. Even if your strength is comparable to a gold core, your magic power. How can it be compared to this old man? Of course. This was Marshal Kuen's last voice. Then Xiaohua saw a fierce brilliance flashing from the place where the sawtooth disappeared. Like a strong sun. He couldn't help but squint his eyes. At the same time, the scene around Xiaohua changed again. The flying feather beasts that had disappeared before appeared again. But these flying feather beasts did not wander for a moment. And the magic power that had rushed out of Xiaohua's body rushed back into his body. After getting all the flying feather beasts, they gradually enlarged and gradually dimmed. Xiaohua only heard a gotcha sound and saw a fire in front of him. In this fire, a spindle-shaped magic treasure floated quietly in the air. And on the other side of the magic treasure, Marshal Kuen's corpse was already dead. As Marshal Kuen's corpse flashed out of the magic treasure, the Xiantian true fire that had been wreaking havoc in the formation was swept away and absorbed into the 6 candlesticks. The 6 candlesticks shook less and gathered together again, turning into a golden magic bottle that landed in front of Marshal Kuen's corpse. What's going on? Xiaohua raised his hand and scratched his head inexplicably. At this time, without Marshal Kuen presiding over the formation, the restriction had been greatly reduced. Xiaohua didn't even have the strength to scratch his head, but now he was relaxed again. However, Marshal Kuan's death was obvious. Although Xiaohua couldn't make sense of it, he still waved his hand, and the golden magic bottle fell into his hand. With another wave, Marshal Kuan's corpse also floated over. Xiaohua pulled with his hand and took the storage pouch on the corpse. Then he searched the corpse's chest. Sure enough, there was a hexagonal magic tablet. Then Xiaohua stood quietly in the air and took out a jade slip from the storage pouch. After looking at it for a long time, he pointed with his hand and sent a strand of magic power into the magic tablet. 6 strange fluctuations appeared at the 6 corners of the magic tablet and rushed to the 6 corners of the formation. Rumble, rumble, rumble. It was as if someone was resisting a mountain. Along with this vibration, the pressure on Xiaohua's body gradually weakened. When the vibration ended, all the pressure disappeared, and the 6 talismans of different colors flew in front of Xiaohua. Xiaohua moved his arms and legs and felt abnormally relaxed. He could almost fly dozens of feet in an instant. The 6 Kings Ceiling Mountain Formation. This formation talisman is actually made of talismans. Marshal Kuan really put in a lot of effort in order to trip me up. Xiaohua laughed mischievously and stored the formation plate and talisman into the space. Then, Xiaohua landed on the ground and put away the magic wand. Finally, he waved his hand and took the blue magic treasure that looked like a spindle. TSK, what kind of magic treasure is this? Xiaohua looked at it strangely. From what Marshal Kuan said, he thought that my magic power was at most at the late stage of foundation establishment. That's why he used this magic treasure. Who knew that my magic power wasn't something that a middle-stage gold core cultivator, like him, could compare to? Instead, he went for wool and came home shorn, and was killed by this magic treasure. Thinking of this, Xiaohua stored this strange magic treasure into the space. He waved his hand and was about to take out the jade slip from the storage pouch to check. However, just as his hand touched the storage pouch, his heart suddenly jumped violently. Oh? Xiaohua was startled, but his lowered head didn't change in the slightest. His eyes turned slightly, and he released his Buddhist sense. His Buddhist sense covered the entire valley, and even extended for several li. Aside from the whistling of the cold wind, he didn't see anything special. Strange. Xiaohua waved his hand and casually took out a jade slip. He placed it in his left hand and slowly checked it. So that's how it is. Xiaohua's eyes flashed with a cold light. Then, Xiaohua put away the jade slip and flicked his hand. A spark flew out and landed on Marshal Kuan's corpse. The orange flame slowly swallowed the corpse, and only after half a cup of tea's time did it burn the corpse. When the corpse disappeared, a dim gold core the size of a thumb appeared in the flame. Marshal Uncle Kuan. I really can't imagine why you would do such a vicious thing to me. Xiaohua flew into the air, and waved his hand to store the jade slip into the space. He looked at the messy valley and smiled bitterly. However, since Marshal Uncle has done it, don't blame me for being ruthless. Now that you're buried in Huan country, you're also a meritorious subject of my Imperial Thunder sect. This meritorious service will be left to your descendants. This gold core, this little one will be disrespectful. After saying that, Xiaohua seemed to be exhausted. After flying for a few feet, he hesitated again. He looked up in the direction of the 7 Extremes Mountains and frowned. How can there be a war in the 7 Extremes Mountains? This is just Marshal Kuan's vicious plan. Why would I go to the 7 Extremes Mountains? I'd better turn back. While speaking, Xiaohua turned around again and flew back. But after flying for a few dozen feet, when he passed by a foothill, Xiaohua suddenly stretched out his hand and took out the wishful steel staff. He threw it at a place he had just passed and shouted, "You're courting death." But at the place where Xiaohua's wishful steel staff hit, a few rays of brilliance suddenly flashed in midair. The human figure of a cultivator flashed out of the void. The cultivator's face had a strange shock. Who else could it be but Li Qingxiu of Xianlu sect? Ah, how come it's you? Seeing Li Qingxiu's figure appear, Xiaohua was also surprised. He also looked at Li Qingxiu in surprise. He tried his best to urge his spiritual power to avoid Xiaohua's wishful steel staff. You're going to die too. Of course, Xiaohua's astonishment only lasted for a moment. He definitely wouldn't let anyone know that he was the one who killed Marshal Kuan, especially Li Qingxiu, who was bent on taking his life. Xiaohua's sneak attack was absolutely successful. He took advantage of Li Qingxiu's side to suddenly turn around and seize the opportunity. How could he be merciful? Li Qingxiu was a cultivator of the late gold core stage. It was rare to have such a good opportunity to get close. If Xiaohua couldn't kill him at this time, the trouble in the future would be big. Sure enough, although Li Qingxiu's invisible amulet had some origin, under Xiaohua's continuous attacks in a short period of time, some of its brilliance had dimmed. Li Qingxiu urged his flying technique to escape, but no matter what, he couldn't be faster than Xiaohua's wind escape technique. Xiaohua, little bastard. This old man originally wanted to let you live. Who knew that you could actually see through this old man? Li Qingxiu's face was gloomy. He gnashed his teeth and said fiercely. Then, when Xiaohua's stick hit the light protecting his body, Li Qingxiu ignored his injury and clapped his hand. A palm-sized pipa appeared in his hand. With a flick of his thumb, the sound of a golden drum rang out from the pipa and directly pierced Xiaohua's ears. Chapter 2492. Seeing his full strength hit Li Qingxiu's body, the defensive brilliance only flickered slightly, and his strength was neutralized. Xiaohua knew that the origin of this invisibility amulet was extraordinary. When Li Qingxiu urged his magic weapon, the sound of the golden drum entered his ears. Xiaohua's eyes suddenly became dizzy, as if a golden needle had pierced his brain. The wishful steel staff in his hand swayed, and there was a tendency that he could not hold it. Xiaohua was shocked by Li Qingxiu's means and did not dare to neglect. He held the wishful steel staff in one hand, and took out the soul-absorbing bell in the other. At the same time, he also took out the toad soul tool. The soul strands flew out from the Dharma eye and rushed into the soul tool. Bang! The sound was like a great bell. That sound rushed into Li Qingxiu's defensive brilliance. Li Qingxiu originally wanted to use his magic power to play the pipa again, but that extremely loud sound actually broke through his defense and rushed straight into his mind. A look of confusion appeared on his face. Fortunately, at this critical moment, the defensive brilliance overflowed with extraordinary splendor, and Li Qingxiu's pipa also emitted a babbling sound. Li Qingxiu's sluggish eyes showed signs of life. "Oh, what a pity," Xiaohua secretly said, as he urged his soul thread again, and forced himself to attack again. Dang! At this moment, Li Qingxiu's face revealed a horrified expression. He urged the spiritual power in his hand. With a clang sound, the two kinds of sounds collided with each other, producing a crackling, explosive sound. Countless extremely small airwaves were generated between the two of them, and the two of them were pushed back several feet. "Oh, not good." Xiaohua did not expect such a result. While he was complaining in his heart, he waved his hand and the soaring dragon shears suddenly flew out. A golden light flashed in the air, and a kacha sound was heard. Several cracks appeared on Li Qingxiu's defensive brilliance. "See, isn't this amulet too powerful?" Xiaohua was once again flabbergasted. He was very clear that even the flying sword of an illusory sword cultivator would have several cracks under the full force of the soaring dragon shears. Li Qingxiu's protective talisman actually had several cracks on it. Its degree of toughness was comparable to an illusory sword. Who would have thought that Li Qingxiu was even more shocked? He was hiding at the foot of the mountain, and saw the whole process of Xiaohua killing Marshal Kuan. He was shocked by Xiaohua's methods, and was already hesitating whether to kill Xiaohua by surprise. But he didn't expect Xiaohua to turn around and directly see through his hiding place. His invisibility talisman was not an ordinary talisman. He had just obtained it from one of his teachers. Even in his dreams, he would never have thought that Xiaohua's magic tool would actually be able to break it. And what shocked Li Qingxiu the most was that Xiaohua's method of attacking him was very different from the method he used to kill Marshal Kuan. He simply didn't know how many methods Xiaohua had. "You. Who are you? How could your magic power be more profound than Marshal Kuan's? You. Don't tell me you're really..." Li Qingxiu's eyes widened. He clenched his teeth and squeezed out these few words from between his teeth. "Of course it's me. Who else could it be?" Why would Xiaohua care about him? Seeing that the brilliance that was cracked by his soaring dragon scissors was actually showing signs of gradually healing, and Li Chengxiu's figure was also showing signs of blurring, Xiaohua also clenched his teeth and waved his hand. The sword pouch was in his hand. Quick! Xiaohua's hand formed a sword seal. 7 flying swords from the sword pouch rushed into the air. The killing intent swept away all the snow in the mountain valley. You. It was actually you who assassinated Tu Hong. Li Chengxiu's eyes revealed a flash of understanding. Damn it, I only had this thought that flashed through my mind that day. I didn't think that it was really you who entered. Just as Li Chengxiu was in a daze, the 7 flying swords crossed in the air and formed a 7-star great array, firmly controlling Li Chengxiu within the sword array. Seeing that the 7-star great array was instantly formed, Xiaohua's heart slightly relaxed. Hee, Tu Hong was the first and you're the second. Xiaohua sneered. Didn't you always want to kill me? Now, I want to see how you're going to do it. Oh, so you already knew. Li Chengxiu looked at the brilliance that had already healed a little and sneered. It was this old man who was stupid. You're old. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and waved his hand. Within the 7-star sword great array, the 7 flying swords trembled slightly and emitted a sword cry. A powerful restrictive force pressed down on Li Chengxiu's protective brilliance. The brilliance flickered along with the sword cry, and the cracks gradually expanded. I want to ask you a question. Li Chengxiu couldn't hold back his curiosity and whispered. Don't worry, fellow Taoist Li. I'm the same as Marshal Cohen. I definitely won't say a word. Xiaohua's hand moved again, and the 7 flying swords actually began to rotate like 7 stars dancing in the night sky. The restrictive force became even stronger. Are you a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect? Are you a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator? Li Chengxiu still asked the question. Li Chengxiu's question was quite strange. Xiaohua was stunned and sneered. Of course I'm a cultivator of the Imperial Thunder Sect. However, as for whether I'm a foundation establishment cultivator or not, Xiaohua's eyes turned, and he patted his forehead and used a secret technique to deceive everyone. Xiaohua's cultivation rushed from the peak of the early stage foundation establishment to the middle stage foundation establishment, and then to the late stage foundation establishment. Moreover, the pressure didn't stop at all. It went all the way from the early stage gold core to the middle stage gold core, and then stopped at the peak of the middle stage gold core. And you really are a middle stage gold core cultivator. Li Chengxiu sighed. No wonder Marshal Cohen died in the Forbidden Law record. I was also almost deceived by you. If that's the case, then you should. At this point, Li Chengxiu's eyes flashed with a hint of joy. Oh, Forbidden Law record? Xiaohua wrinkled his brows and withdrew the fake pressure of the secret technique. However, when he heard the last half of Li Chengxiu's sentence and the joy in Li Chengxiu's eyes, he felt something was wrong. Go. Xiaohua opened his mouth, and the dream executioner transformed into 64 azure and red sword lights that rushed into the sword formation. Hiss! Li Chengxiu's heart palpitated for no reason. It was as if he was a stranger in front of him. Li Chengxiu was so frightened that he hastily urged the secret technique. His entire body flashed with brilliance, and the faint sound of heavenly music echoed in his mind. Only then did he expel that fear. That day, I'm afraid Tu Hong was helpless in front of the piercing swords because of this. Li Chengxiu thought with lingering fear. However, looking at the 64 azure and red sword lights that pierce with absolute sharpness, and the 7 flying swords that were revolving like stars, the power of confinement within was like a millstone being squeezed. Within the brilliance, a faint caw-caw sound could be heard. Xiaohua is actually a middle-stage gold core cultivator. And he has so many tricks up his sleeves. Li Chengxiu's eyes narrowed. He knew that today was the day he had to make a choice. He concealed himself so deeply. I'm afraid it's really like what he said. Even he doesn't have much certainty. I can only do this. Thinking this, Li Chengxiu clenched his teeth and took out a spirit talisman from his storage pouch. He dripped a drop of blood essence into it, and then sneered as he urged his magic power. The spirit talisman received the blood essence, and suddenly emitted a resplendent brilliance like a rising sun. As soon as this brilliance appeared, A powerful suction force was born from the spirit talisman. The gold core in Li Chengxiu's body surged, urging his true essence to circulate, and all the magic power in his body poured into it. Wang! There was a loud sound like millions of bees and flies flapping their wings. Within the entire valley, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within several li converged towards this brilliance. After a series of hurricanes blew past, within the brilliance, a large blood-red hand appeared from within the spirit talisman. Ah! Xiaohua had seen this large hand several times. Naturally, he was very familiar with it. This was one of the divine abilities of a nascent soul cultivator. Xiaohua couldn't help but cry out in alarm. What else was there to say? This spirit talisman was the life-saving means that Li Chengxiu obtained from the sect leader of the Utopia faction when he was on duty at the conference hall. As soon as the blood-red hand formed, it immediately produced a powerful force from its 5 fingers. This force not only tore apart the imprisonment force of the 7 stars Great Array, but also completely disrupted the 7 stars Great Array. The 7 illusory swords let out a mournful cry in midair. Moreover, as the large hand shook slightly, the 64 sword lights of the Dream Executioner were suddenly crushed, revealing only the small green and red sword suspended in the large hand like a dead fish. It looked quite lonely. Hiss! Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. The imprisonment force of this large hand is too powerful, right? Xiaohua hurriedly urged the Dream Executioner. The Dream Executioner was like a panicked bird, struggling in the large hand, trying its best to break free from the imprisonment. Not only that, the large hand tore apart the 7 stars Great Array and didn't stop at all. It once again covered the direction of Xiaohua. Damn it! Feeling the irresistible imprisonment force falling from the sky, Xiaohua's eyes turned wildly. He waved the wishful staff in his hand, wanting to fight against the nascent soul's hand. But his heart moved, and with a wave of his hand, dozens of refined fire talismans were scattered. Rumble, 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 a series of earth-shattering explosions rang out, and the entire valley was dyed red. What kind of yellow talisman is this? Li Chengxiu obviously didn't see Xiaohua's jade talisman clearly. He didn't care about Xiaohua's jade talisman at all. He only wanted to urge the nascent soul's hand to grab Xiaohua to death. However, when he saw an explosion that he had never seen before, the imprisonment force of the nascent soul's hand exploded, and even some parts of the nascent soul's hand cracked, he exclaimed. However, he only had time to let out a cry of surprise before Xiaohua actually took out a dozen more fire talismans from the space. Ah! This is a jade talisman. How could he have a jade talisman? Li Chengxiu was shocked. And, it's actually a fireball jade talisman. Xiaohua waved his hand without hesitation, and dozens of fire talismans were scattered again. He didn't look distressed at all, as if he still had a lot of them in his storage bag. And these dozens of fire talismans exploded, blocking the nascent soul's hand from moving further, making Li Chengxiu feel really stretched. Chapter 2493. Let's go. This idea immediately appeared in Li Chengxiu's mind. The one who wants to kill now is Xiaohua. As long as I return to the Sky Patrol City, I can expose this guy's face. Not to mention that killing Tu Hong is a big crime. Shuiyu Zhenren will be the first to not let him go. There must be something fishy about him hiding in the Imperial Thunder sect, with his gold core cultivation. If I'm not wrong, Xiaohua is the person that the senior is looking for. As long as I tell the senior about this, I don't need to do anything. Thinking of this, Li Chengxiu urged the hand of the nascent soul. The big hand shook violently and slammed toward Xiaohua again. Sure enough, Xiaohua took back the Dream Executioner, and threw out more than 10 fire talismans. At the same time, the Tengjiao scissors that stopped in mid-air slashed again. The violent explosion lifted the big hand, and the Tengjiao scissors even left a crack on the big hand. Looking at the giant hand, it took advantage of the moment when Li Chengxiu was moving upwards to wrap around Li Chengxiu. With a sway, it was about to rush into the air. Where do you think you're going? Xiaohua didn't expect the giant to escape before Li Chengxiu even used any means. He couldn't help but feel anxious. His figure flickered and rushed to the side of the Yuanying's hand. He waved the wishful steel staff towards the big hand. Unfortunately, although the wishful staff shook the nascent soul's hand and even cracked it, the nascent soul's hand could not be stopped. Quick! Xiaohua did not dare to let the nascent soul's hand fly away. He opened his mouth and a thread of spiritual fire flew out, entangling the nascent soul's hand. The spiritual fire was indeed useful. The nascent soul's hand shook and seemed to be trapped. Moreover, the nascent soul's hand began to show signs of collapse in the spiritual fire. Buzz, at this time Li Qingxiu also went all out. He dripped another drop of essence blood into the big hand. The bloody big hand shone red. You can stay here. Xiaohua saw that the spiritual fire was tied with the nascent soul's hand. He slapped his forehead and released the Buddha's saraira. Ah! Buddha! Buddhism sect! Li Qingxiu couldn't help but groan when he saw the Buddha's relic shining with Buddha's light. This Xiaohua what is his background? However, before he could think any further, the pure water bottle in the Buddha Saraira's left hand tipped slightly, and the primordial water gushed out like waves, covering the entire valley in an instant. Even the nascent soul's hand was completely covered. This was something that Xiaohua didn't even take out when facing Marshal Kuan's Xiantian True Fire. As soon as it appeared, it immediately displayed a boundless might. Li Qingxiu, who was in the Yuanying's hand, immediately felt as if there was a huge force pressing down on his body. The most frightening thing was that there were tens of thousands of whirlpools spinning around the Yuanying's hand in the Xiantian True Water. Not only did the Xiantian True Water corrode the Yuanying's hand, it also corroded the Yuanying's hand even more. How many tricks does this bastard have? Li Qingxiu was about to cry as he groaned. He really didn't think, not even in his dreams, that Xiaohua, whom he had always looked down upon, would actually become his own nemesis. Go! Li Qingxiu saw that the Xiantian True Water had trapped the Yuanying's hand, and that it was only trapped for a short moment before it showed signs of dissipating. At that moment, he slapped his hand and took out a shiny object from his storage pouch. What kind of tricks does this bastard have? Xiaohua didn't believe that Li Qingxiu, a late-stage golden core cultivator, only had these few tricks. Seeing the shiny object appear, his heart trembled. However, when Li Qingxiu activated his magic power, that shiny object turned into a ray of light and rushed out. The light was like a sharp arrow, splitting the Xiantian True Water apart and rushing out. He immediately shouted, "Oh no! Isn't this thing the same as the transmission talisman that Feng Buping released that day? Where do you think you're going?" Xiaohua's figure flashed, and thunder rumbled around him. Immediately, a series of afterimages flashed as he chased after that light. Fortunately, the Xiantian True Water blocked the light for a moment. When Xiaohua flew out of the Xiantian True Water, the light had only rushed out a few dozen feet. Just as that light was about to speed up, Xiaohua shook his hand, and the heaven and earth sleeve came down. Pooh! Xiaohua's Taoist robe sleeve exploded, and the light that broke through Xiaohua's restriction slowed down. Luo! Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. His left and right hands used the heaven and earth sleeve consecutively, stopping that light in midair. When the light dimmed, its true form was revealed. It was a transmission talisman. Xiaohua stretched out his hand and grabbed that transmission talisman. Just as he was about to use his magic power to crush it, his heart was moved again. He released his divine sense and stored the transmission talisman into his space. Perhaps I can find out who is instructing Li Qingxiu from this transmission talisman? Xiaohua thought as he fell into the Xiantian True Water again. Seeing Xiaohua return with a calm expression, although Li Qingxiu's divine sense was blocked by the Xiantian True Water, he knew that his transmission talisman was intercepted by Xiaohua. At this time, he was already numb from Xiaohua's endless methods. He couldn't think of anything else. Looking at the boundless Xiantian True Water that completely surrounded him, Li Qingxiu's face turned ashen. Xiaohua stabilized himself and immediately activated the Buddha Saraira. The Buddha's merciful and compassionate expression became even stronger. The Buddha seal in his hand slowly rotated, and the Xiantian True Water roared fiercely along with the Buddha seal. The Yuanying's hand that was corroded by the Xiantian true water earlier couldn't hold on anymore. With a rumbling sound, the transmission talisman fell into the Xiantian true water and disappeared. Wang, after breaking through the Yuanying's hand, the Xiantian true water directly flooded the defensive light around Li Qingxiu. But what surprised Xiaohua was that this defensive light was actually not afraid of the Xiantian true water. After several impacts, it didn't move at all. Seeing Li Qingxiu using his magic power within the light, he rushed into the Xiantian true water, wanting to break out of the water. Xiaohua snorted coldly. He formed a sword seal and hit the sword pouch. Wang Wang. With another burst of sword cries, the 7 flying swords rushed up again, and formed a 7 stars great array in the Xiantian true water, once again surrounding Li Qingxiu. Xiaohua, this old man will fight it out with you. Li Qingxiu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He clapped his hands, and a beam of bright light flashed past. A round magical treasure rushed out of the defensive light and struck towards Xiaohua. Xiaohua's body trembled. Li Qingxiu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. As soon as the magic treasure came out, an indescribable noise came from the magic treasure. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth was shaken into chaos. Even Xiaohua was somewhat unable to stand steadily when he heard it. This magic treasure was not weak, but under the 7 stars great array and the heavy pressure of the Xiantian true water, the magic treasure was somewhat difficult to fly. Moreover, the magic treasure was very close to Xiaohua at this time. Xiaohua raised his hand without hesitation. With the wishful staff in his hand, he smashed it without hesitation. Dang! With a loud sound, the magic treasure fell and flew obliquely into the Xiantian true water. Sai, seeing that he could not control the magic treasure as he wished under the heavy pressure, and that his last blow was actually hit by Xiaohua, Li Qingxiu sighed. He seemed to have aged a lot. The situation at the auction in Sentry City was clearly reflected in his mind. Could it be that since then, this old man's fate has been decided? As soon as this idea flashed in his mind, Li Qingxiu heard a kacha sound in his ears. He saw that the light of the invisible amulet was damaged under the 7 stars great array's 7 flying swords. Now that it had been damaged, the Xiantian true water, which was previously powerless against the brilliance, immediately began to corrode. The brilliance of the amulet was about to collapse. Forget it. Li Qingxiu's vitality was extinguished. Thinking of the scene where Xiaohua destroyed the evidence, his face gave birth to a grin. Even if this old man dies, I will fight it out with you. As he spoke, the brilliance around Li Qingxiu's body swayed, and his spiritual power suddenly converged. Golden core self-explosion? Xiaohua was shocked, and his figure hurriedly flew back. Xiaohua's flying speed was fast. He had just flown a few feet when an explosion of extermination intent rushed out from the Xiantian true water. The innate true water, which could even crush a nascent soul's hand, was blasted into waves of over 100 feet tall by the violent explosion. The body of the Buddha relic that controlled the innate true water flickered with a bright Buddhist light, and its body began to sway. An extremely indescribable feeling came from the left side of Xiaohua's Naiwan Palace. This was not the most important thing. The 7 stars great array that imprisoned Li Qingxiu was shattered by this explosion. The 7 flying swords flew out and rushed to an unknown place. The shockwave that followed the direction Xiaohua flew in pushed him back a few dozen feet, smashing him into the mountain beside him. Although Xiaohua hurriedly struck a spell and used the earth escape technique to rush into the mountain, his body was also violently shaken, and he suffered a rare injury. Xiaohua's figure came out from the other side of the mountain. He slapped his hand, and a parasol pill entered his mouth. After adjusting his breathing, he rushed into the sky and circled around from the foot of the mountain. The wave-like Xiantian true water was also turned into a mess by Li Qingxiu's self-explosion. The Buddha's Sarira's Buddhist light dimmed, and it actually looked dispirited. Collect! Xiaohua urged the Buddha's Sarira, and the clear water bottle produced a suction force, slowly sucking in the scattered Xiantian true water. A force that he had never felt before came out from the clear water bottle. The hand of the Buddha's Sarira shook slightly, and it actually felt like it could not hold it. I hate people like Li Qingxiu who harm others without benefiting himself the most. Xiao Hua scanned with his divine sense, and he knew that the entire valley was destroyed by Li Chengxiu's self-explosion, not to mention his storage pouch. Most of the things were destroyed, and the broken things were scattered all over the ground. Moreover, this self-explosion also affected the Buddha's saraira. Or maybe it's because he controlled the clear water bottle that the saraira became so decadent. Xiao Hua complained again. Then his eyes turned, and the 9 syllables mantra was recited from the mouth of the Buddha's saraira. In a moment, Li Chengxiu's soul that had not yet dissipated was captured by Xiao Hua's saraira. After a moment of questioning, Xiao Hua finally sent his soul away. Chapter 2494. The self-destruction of a gold core cultivator is really too powerful. If it wasn't for the innate true water and the 7 stars great array, I would have been seriously injured. Xiao Hua put away the Buddha saraira, then found the 7 scattered flying swords from the nearby mountain, and put them into the sword pouch. Only then did he look at the messy valley inside. I originally thought I could fish out a storage pouch from Li Chengxiu, but in the end it was all for naught. Other than the golden alms bowl that had long been knocked down and some sturdy refining tools, everything else was destroyed. Even that guy's magical treasure, the pipa, was gone. If I knew it would be like this, I would have used the heaven and earth sleeve to confine it. However, he was just thinking about it. The situation was so urgent that he was injured by the air wave even though he tried his best to escape. Even if he used the heaven and earth sleeve, he would have been seriously injured. After cleaning up the mess, Xiao Hua sat on the ground and thought to himself, Master Dui? Why is he inquiring about me? But it doesn't necessarily belong to me. A cultivator who may be a body cultivator, a cultivator who may have no foundation, a cultivator whose cultivation is beyond imagination, a cultivator whose cultivation is not high, but whose magic power is far superior to other cultivators of the same level. Damn it, no matter how I look at it, he is looking for me. See, thinking of this, Xiao Hua quivered and almost jumped up from the ground. It can't be the cultivator who sealed my Aniwan gong? But then he shook his head slightly. It seems it can't be. If it was the cultivator who sealed me, he should know my appearance. My face hasn't changed for dozens of years. Wouldn't it be easy for him to find me? That's even more strange. Xiao Hua scratched his head. Maybe. This Master Dui isn't looking for me, but Li Chengxiu saw that I wanted to kill him. So he used that nascent soul cultivator's communication talisman to ask for help. Nascent soul cultivator. I am not his opponent now, but I can't break the invisible protective talisman that Master Dui gave Li Chengxiu in a short time. Not to mention the jade talisman that Xian Lisec's fairy Hong Xia gave to Li Chengxiu. My goodness, that's a life-saving item for a golden core cultivator. If I didn't obtain the 7 stars grand formation and the innate primordial water, I'm afraid the one lying here today would be me, right? Thinking about this, Xiao Hua felt a lingering fear. Actually, the spiritual fire could also break that jade talisman. It's just that Li Chengxiu insisted on running away. This young master still didn't have any good ideas. If he really escapes, damn it, the consequences will be unimaginable. Forget it, there are still more than 10 days before the attack of the 7 Extremes Ridge. This time, not only are the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect attacking the 7 Extremes Ridge, but my wife is also there. How can I not go and take a look? I'd better use this time to refine the ice deadly mirror. It's really awkward to not have a handy artifact. Xiao Hua waved his hand and ignited a few wisps of true samadhi fire, burning all traces of the battle in the valley. Then, with a sway of his body, he flew towards the direction of the 7 Extremes mountain range. After waiting for an hour, he landed again, looking left and right, looking for a low-lying place and diving in, back to Yanxi's mansion in Sky Patrol City. The meeting hall was bustling with noise and excitement. Today's duty was Hung Zhao from the Utopia faction. He asked, fellow cultivators, have all the disciples sent out to test the waters been sent out? Haha, I'll let you know, fellow cultivator Hung Ming. We've already discussed this matter properly. We've been working on it since the beginning of the year. Which fellow cultivator didn't do their best? They must have sent out the disciples according to the previous discussion. Zhou Qingping from the Thousand Leaves Ridge replied with a chuckle. Zhu Junwei from the Cool Breeze Valley stood up and said, "Fellow cultivator Hung Ming, the disciples of the Cool Breeze Valley were the last to leave through the teleportation device. They all left the Sky Patrol City at noon the day before yesterday, but there's no further news yet." Well, the Sky Patrol City is quite a distance away from the Spirit Stone veins. Even the Nanming sect that left first didn't have any news, right? Hung Ming nodded slightly, then stretched and smiled. After this exploration is successful, we can fully engage in the battle. If possible, we'll kill all the swordsmen in the Spirit Stone veins, and end this sword principle war as soon as possible. Haha, fellow cultivator Hung Ming, you're thinking too much. Xiong Huasong from the Black Sky sect also looked relaxed and smiled. In the sword principle war that has been going on for nearly 10,000 years, there have only been a few times when it was ended by cultivators in the Gold Core realm. Our Dao sect had always gained the upper hand from the start of the battle, and forced the sword cultivators out of the sword tomb. We had even killed all the sword cultivators within the sword tomb. That was why the swordsmen from the Huan country had no choice but to hastily retreat. Today, I'm afraid it won't be that simple. Indeed, our sect's battle line has yet to touch the sword tomb. I'm afraid it won't be as simple as fellow cultivator Hung Ming thinks. Hua Ping from the Blazing Fire Mountain agreed. However, Hung Ming did not agree. The corners of his mouth curled up as he said, "The sword cultivators this time are really fierce. They've been suppressing our attacks. We've been hiding our strength again and again, so of course we can't attack the sword tomb. However, we've already mobilized the elites of each sect to the Sky Patrol City in advance. The Gold Core disciples have also come to help. As long as we kill all the swordsmen in the sword tomb, those swordsmen will be disgraced. Do you think they'll wait for our masters to come?" "That's right." Xiang Ming from the Huanhua sect clapped his hands arrogantly and said, "I agree with fellow cultivator Hung Ming's opinion. We've been scheming for several years and have always been showing weakness. Isn't it to lure these sword cultivators who come and go like the wind into a trap? Now that they've occupied the Spirit Stone veins and taken away some of the fortresses that we used before, aren't they falling into our ambush? This time, we only need to probe a little more. Once we get the correct information, we'll send out all the disciples. This old man doesn't believe that a mere Huan country can be a match for our cultivation 3 countries. Ha ha ha, it's really like that." The cultivators were all jubilant, as if victory was already in their hands. After a long while, Qianemo, who had been silent all this time, said faintly, "This old man knows that everyone might not like what I'm saying. However, this old man doesn't have any selfish motives. I'm just thinking about the 3 countries of my Dao sect. I'm just stating facts. Since you know that your words aren't nice to hear, then don't say it." 7 Skills Sect's Wang Yi clearly looked down on Qianemo and said coldly, "Fellow cultivator Wang," Hung Ming smiled and said, "the conference hall isn't a place where one person has the final say. Fellow cultivator Qianemo naturally has the right to speak. His Imperial Thunder Sect's battle achievements are illustrious. They're not inferior to your 7 Skills sect." "Humph, who knows where their battle achievements came from?" Wang Yi coldly snorted. "Oh. Fellow cultivator Wang, could it be that you have something to say?" Hung Ming narrowed his eyes and asked with a sneer. Wang Yi hurriedly waved his hand. "Of course not. Fellow cultivator Qian should speak. Fellow cultivator Qian has always been a modest gentleman who keeps his promises. Even if his Dao heart is damaged, he would still be a man of his word. This old man can't compare to him." Hee. The cultivators all covered their mouths and snickered. Clearly, everyone knew about Dui Qiming's matter. Cough cough. Qianmo's face was slightly red. He coughed twice and said, "Fellow cultivators must still be laughing at my Imperial Thunder sect because of Dui Qiming and Tu Hong's matter. If it was any other day, I naturally wouldn't say anything. In this world, there are clear and turbid matters. The clear ones are clear, and the turbid ones are turbid. This old man doesn't care what others say. However, today this old man has to say a thing or two. Let's talk about Dui Qiming. This old man knew that she and Cui Hongshan were lovers. However, Don't you think that the reason Tu Hong fell in love with Dui Qiming was because of love? If he wasn't infatuated, why would he put down his pride and propose marriage to a foundation establishment female cultivator? Ha ha ha, fellow cultivator Qian, it seems this old man heard that he didn't just do it to dual cultivate with Dui Qiming, right? Wang Yi laughed loudly. At that time, did fellow cultivator Wang know? Does anyone here know? Qian Mo said solemnly. It was because I didn't know that this old man helped Tu Hong. At the same time, I also helped Dui Qiming. Even after Cui Hongshan survived, this old man still wanted to marry Dui Qiming to Tu Hong behind his back. This was all for their own good. Let's not talk about Tu Hong being a golden core cultivator. In these 5 years, Dui Qiming and Tu Hong already had feelings for each other. Cui Hongshan only survived 5 years later. His appearance was definitely a mistake. What about Dui Qiming? She might have some feelings for Cui Hongshan in the past, but now? Who does she have more feelings for? This old man naturally cares about his own disciple. I won't hide it from everyone. In this old man's opinion, Dui Qiming is still biased towards Tu Hong. What's more, if Dui Qiming sees Cui Hongshan now, and suddenly goes back on her words, and doesn't want to hold the dual cultivation ceremony with Tu Hong? Tell me, what about the 2 nascent soul masters' faces? Alright, let's not talk about the 2 nascent soul masters' faces. After all, my sect master said that everything depends on Dui Qiming herself. He definitely won't force her and really cancel the dual cultivation ceremony. Then what about Tu Hong's face? Do you think Dui Qiming and Cui Hongshan can peacefully cultivate on Dawn Rain mainland? Unless they are always under my Imperial Thunder Sect's protection. If they go out to train and something happens to them, tell me, how will my Imperial Thunder Sect pursue this matter? Rather than letting them lose their lives, why not let them suffer for a long time and turn it into a short one? To help the 3 of them. If that's the case, then it's your fellow cultivator Qian's good intentions? You actually killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only did you save their lives, but you also saved the master's face? Wang Yi said disapprovingly. Not only that. Qian Mo waved his hand and said, it should be killing 3 birds with 1 stone. 3? Wang Yi asked curiously. And whose lives? It's the lives of tens of thousands, no hundreds of thousands of cultivators in my Dao sect. Qian Mo said excitedly. Tu Hong is a talented general. In the 5 years that he has been in the discussion hall, he has indeed made illustrious military achievements. He, wasn't today's plan to lure the enemy into the discussion hall the one that Tu Hong suggested? Since he is a talented general of my Dao sect, he has an important role to play. In order to keep this general in my discussion hall, my Imperial Thunder sect has suffered some losses. So what if I, Qian Mo, lose some face? That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.